Chapter 1899, Annihilation. Chapter 1899, Annihilation. Those were flames that spewed out of the vermilion bird's eyes. How could they be devoured so easily? Even Sleeve Universe could not do it. In the blink of an eye, Meiji's sleeves were burned to ashes. Not only that, the surface of her arm was charred black and her skin was cracked, emitting a pungent smell. What was even more frightening was that the flames did not show any signs of extinguishing and spread along her arm towards her upper body. A look of determination flashed through Meiji's eyes. She slashed in reverse and severed her arm. Fresh blood gushed out from where her arm was severed and splattered onto the scarlet flames, letting out sizzling sounds as green smoke billowed. His severed arm fell and turned into ashes. Meiji channeled her essence spirit, and in the blink of an eye, her severed arm regrew. Screech! The vermilion bird let out a long cry and flapped its wings. The flames on its body burned furiously as it descended from the skies and lunged towards Meiji. Essence chi surged around Meiji as she spun her saber and slashed forward. A cold saber beam burst forth, and the surrounding temperature dipped. Boom! The saber collided with the vermilion bird. The two energies, one hot and one cold, collided, and it was hard to tell who was stronger. Suzimo kept his distance and did not attack. Given his current strength, he would not be able to cause any waves even if he attacked. The aftershock of the battle between Meiji and the vermilion bird was enough to kill him. Suzimo watched coldly from the sidelines and had a clearer grasp of the situation. Meiji was right. The vermilion bird did not have a body of flesh and blood, and the combat strength it could release in its soul form was indeed limited. However, as time passed by, the flames on the vermilion bird intensified and condensed, even turning into scarlet lava that dripped down from its body. The vermilion bird was a sacred beast after all and fought fiercer the longer the battle continued. Under the constant entanglement of the vermilion bird, Meiji's expression turned extremely terrible, and she gradually could not withstand it. The flames burning on the vermilion bird were way too terrifying. Those flames were not only extremely lethal, they could also burn heaven and earth essence chi. The heaven and earth essence chi around Meiji was almost completely burned by the flames. In the battle, Meiji released supreme divine powers repeatedly and used all her might to finally break free from the vermilion bird's entanglement and charge towards Suzimo. Meiji vaguely realized that as long as she could kill Suzimo, the vermilion bird's sacred soul would collapse without a fight. However, Suzimo's reaction was extremely fast as well. He slammed into the abyss wall right away and hid in that mysterious space. This space was created by the horn dragon. Suzimo had the dragon phoenix essence spirit and could enter and exit freely. However, Meiji could not enter. Unable to kill Suzimo, Meiji was entangled by the vermilion bird once more. She was covered in dust and her hair was curled, looking wretched. At that moment, when Meiji opened her mouth slightly, her breath was scorching. After the long battle, the vermilion bird flames had already seeped into her body. I can't stay here anymore. Meiji was secretly alarmed. If not for her many trump cards and secret skills, she would have died a long time ago. I have to get rid of this vermilion bird and find a secluded and safe place to purge away the fire poison in my body. Otherwise, there will be endless trouble in the future. At that thought, Meiji channeled her essence spirit and released an essence spirit secret skill to fight the vermilion bird head-on. Meiji shuddered and her gaze dimmed. The vermilion bird shuddered slightly as well and paused in midair. This attack had a huge impact on the vermilion bird. Its life force was clearly much weaker and its glow was much dimmer. This battle had taken a huge toll on the vermilion bird. Of course, Meiji did not feel good either and spat out a mouthful of blood. Meiji seized the opportunity and fled from the battlefield in a flash, escaping out of the dragon abyss star. The vermilion bird glared at Meiji coldly before turning around, prepared to return to the bronze square tripod. Suzimo's heart sank. This battle had taken a huge toll on the vermilion bird. For the vermilion bird, repelling Meiji was enough. However, for Suzumo, there was a high chance that Meiji's escape would bring about a calamity for him. Meiji was backed by a massive immortal sect. The day she made a comeback would be the day he died. Furthermore, Meiji already knew some of his secrets. If she were to escape, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, Suzumo was only a grade 7 black immortal. Even if Meiji was severely injured by the vermilion bird, he could not do anything to her. Don't come back. Chase after her. Suzumo could only look at the vermilion bird that was turning around and attempt to channel his spirit consciousness, hoping that it could sense his intentions. Be it the azure dragon or the vermilion bird, they appeared on their own each time and had never listened to Suzumo's orders. Suzumo did not know if his current actions were useful. Suddenly, the vermilion bird paused for a moment. Suzumo was invigorated and said hurriedly, "Kill her at all costs." With a cold expression, the vermilion bird turned around and chased after the fleeing Meiji. Swoosh! A scarlet light tore through the void. No matter how fast Meiji was, she could not match the vermilion bird. Sensing the scorching heat wave behind her, she was alarmed and could not help but turn back. The vermilion bird was murderous, and the killing intent in its eyes was even more condensed than before. Screech! The cry of the vermilion bird sounded once more, piercing through metal and cracking rocks. Meiji had a pained expression as blood flowed out from her ears. "I'll fight you to the death." Meiji grit her teeth and shouted. She summoned many dermic treasures from her storage bag that turned into countless divine lights and shot towards the vermilion bird. Phew! The vermilion bird curled its body and charged towards the dermic treasures like a gigantic fireball. Boom! There was a deafening sound. The dermic treasures were sent flying everywhere, and every single one of them burned with flames as they fell from midair. It was clear that they were crippled. The light on the vermilion bird dimmed once more. Meiji and the vermilion bird fought once more. Each time the two of them collided, the vermilion bird's aura would weaken. As for Meiji, the wounds on her body increased and the fire poison in her body intensified. In the end, Meiji's organs began to burn with flames. "Ah!" Meiji cried out in pain. Flames spewed from her open mouth. The flames were way too terrifying, and there was no way to escape. Even with blood rebirth, it was not enough. Under the burning of that flame, all her bloodline would be refined completely. Finally, Meiji could not hold on any longer and shrieked once more. "Heavenly Fiend Dissolution." Suzumo knew best how terrifying Heavenly Fiend Dissolution was. Back in Tianhuang mainland, Monk Daming used this supreme divine power to drag a clone of Tao Lord Blood Fiend down with him. Bang! Meiji's body exploded into a blood mist and released an extremely terrifying power that engulfed the vermilion bird instantly. The vermilion bird's glow was dim to begin with, and its aura was weak. The power of Heavenly Fiend Dissolution descended, and the vermilion bird shattered on the spot, turning into a scarlet beam of light that entered Suzumo's glabella and returned to the bronze square tripod. On the second tripod wall, the vermilion bird pattern recovered. However, there were no signs of life, and the vermilion bird's eyes were tightly shut. The azure dragon and vermilion bird had both gone silent. Although Suzumo had lost this powerful trump card for the time being, at the very least, he had killed Meiji and saved himself a lot of trouble. Putting away Meiji's storage bag, Suzumo took a deep breath and sped towards Snow Wind Ridge without hesitation. Chapter 1900, Breaking of the Immortal Formation. Chapter 1900, Breaking of the Immortal Formation. Outside Snow Wind Ridge. The 100,000-strong Evil Wolf Army and Goshawk Gang had been attacking the Immortal Formation day and night for 7 days. Initially, the Immortal Formation was indestructible. However, under the continuous toll of the 100,000 troops, the energy of the Essence Spirit Stones in the Formation Eyes decreased rapidly as well. The light emitted by the Immortal Formation was clearly much dimmer than before. Each time the army charged, the Immortal Formation would tremble. After 7 days of recuperation, The wound on Yu Hao's abdomen was already bandaged and stopped bleeding. Although he was still unable to fight, he had at least regained his mobility. Yu Hao and Xia Qingying looked at the army outside Snow Wind Ridge with grim expressions. Both of them knew very well that once the Essence Spirit Stones in the Formation Eyes were depleted and the Immortal Formation was destroyed, Snow Wind Ridge would be doomed. There were no extra Essence Spirit Stones in Snow Wind Ridge. Even if there was, the two of them did not know how to replace them. This Immortal Formation could not last long. Xia Qingying gripped Yu Hao's hand tightly. The two of them exchanged glances, understanding one another telepathically without having to say anything. Even if they had to die, they wanted to die together. Big brother, almost all the major factions are here. However, none of them dare to stand out and fight against the Evil Wolf Army and the Goshawk Gang. Shinfei sighed. For the past 7 days, the major factions of the Dragon Abyss Star, such as the Heavenly Scorpion Gang and Thundershock Hall, arrived at Snow Wind Ridge one after another. Furthermore, those that arrived were the leaders of the major factions. The gang leader of Heavenly Scorpion Gang, the Hall Master of Thundershock Hall, the Sect Master of Heavenbane Sect, the Mountain Lord of Black Een Mountain, the Palace Lord of Heavenly Fire Palace, and the Sect Master of Black Light Sect were all here personally. However, be it the gang leader of Heavenly Scorpion Gang, the Hall Master of Thundershock Hall, or the leaders of other factions, none of them brought many people. The number varied between hundreds and thousands. That was a clear indication of their stance. The Sect Masters and Hall Masters had no intention of helping Snow Wind Ridge at all. They were only here to watch the show. Some people might even harbor thoughts of taking advantage of the situation and kicking someone when they were down. Yu Hao shook his head gently. It's not that they don't dare, but they don't want to. Given the strength and foundation of the major factions, if they work together, there's no way the Evil Wolf Army and Goshawk Gang can defend against them. However, they each have their own motives and are worried that their strength will be weakened if they fight the two great bandits. Therefore, neither of them is willing to stand out. Crack, crack, crack. Suddenly, a jarring sound came from the barrier around Snow Wind Ridge. Cracks appeared on it and spread rapidly. The Immortal Formation was about to shatter. Prepare to fight to the death. Yu Hao grit his teeth and ordered. Boom, boom, boom. Right then, dust billowed from the ground far away and a violent quake sounded. An army was speeding over. Windflame, Sangya, and the leaders of the major factions turned to look. Everyone from Snow Wind Ridge tried their best to look through the crowd as well. It's Twin Dragon Sect, the crowd exclaimed. By the looks of it, there's about 40,000 troops. Shinfei was invigorated and could not help but ask, could Twin Dragon Sect be here to help us? Let's wait and see. Gu Wenjun took a deep breath and tried her best to remain calm. Ko Yong, Su Jian, why did the two of you bring so many people here? The gang leader of Heavenly Scorpion Gang raised his brow slightly and asked loudly. Since it's rare for the two great bandits to gather, we naturally have to kill to our heart's content. At the front of Twin Dragon Sect, a burly man shouted murderously. He was one of the Twin Dragons, Ko Yong. The Mountain Lord of Black Een Mountain, Ding Yi, said in a strange manner, the two of you. I advise you not to get involved in this mess, lest you get implicated. A figure caught up from behind Ko Yong. Su Jian asked with an indifferent expression, since when was Black Een Mountain on the side of the bandits? Ding Yi harumphed coldly with a dark expression. Suddenly, Windflame declared loudly, today is a feud between the Evil Wolf Army, Goshawk Gang, and Snow Wind Ridge. Fellow Taoist brothers, please give me some face and I'll definitely repay you handsomely in the future. Ha 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 ha. Ko Yong burst into laughter and slapped in reverse. The saber on his back jumped out and let out a buzzing sound as saber chi spread. How dare a bandit leader refer to me as a brother? Ko Yong hollered and leaped up with his saber. Descending from the skies, he slashed towards the Evil Wolf Army with a blinding saber beam. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. Nobody expected one of the twin dragons, Ko Yong, to be so domineering that he chose to take the two great bandits head-on. Kill. Su Jian waved his arm and pointed forward as well. The 40,000-strong Twin Dragon Sect army swarmed forward and fought against the 100,000-strong army of the two great bandits. The moment the two armies collided, an endless blood mist burst forth. Boom, boom. At the same time, the Immortal formation at the outer perimeter of Snow Wind Ridge could not withstand it and shattered completely. Everyone from Snow Wind Ridge was exposed to the gazes of the two great bandits. I've long heard of the methods of the Twin Dragons. It's a rare encounter today, and I can take the opportunity to learn from you. Right then, Dingyi of Black Een Mountain suddenly stood out and joined forces with his right protector to charge towards Koyong and Sujian. To think that the Black Een Mountain would attack as well. The Hall Master of Thundershock Hall frowned slightly. The gang leader of Heavenly Scorpion Gang sneered. Black Een Mountain is located extremely close to Twin Dragon Sect. If they can kill the Twin Dragons here, Black Een Mountain can make use of the power of the two great bandits to devour Twin Dragon Sect and strengthen themselves. By the looks of it, it's not just Snow Wind Ridge today. Twin Dragon Sect might be annihilated as well. The Sect Master of Black Light Sect said. With Ding Yi and the right protector of Black Een Mountain holding back the Twin Dragons, Wind Flame, the second boss of the Evil Wolf Army, Sangya and the vice gang leader of Goshawk Gang seized the opportunity to escape and charge towards Snow Wind Ridge. Those were 4 Grade 8 Black Immortals. As for Snow Wind Ridge, apart from Yuhao and the Silver Giant who were at the level 7 Black Essence Realm, there was not even another Grade 7 Black Immortal. Yuhao and the Silver Giant were severely injured and could barely participate in the battle. For Grade 8 Black Immortals charged into the battlefield, and in the blink of an eye, the army of Snow Wind Ridge was in a mess with heavy casualties. Nobody could stop the attacks of Wind Flame and the other 3. Sangya led an army of hundreds of goshawks and attacked continuously from the skies, causing immense damage to Snow Wind Ridge and Twin Dragon Sect. Although the Twin Dragons were also Grade 8 Black Immortals, they could only leap less than 90 feet into the air. However, the goshawks could fly dozens of feet in the air. It was extremely difficult to capture and tame a goshawk. Although the goshawk army did not have many people, only a few hundred, they were already invincible with that fact. Nobody in the Black Essence Realm could hurt them. Ha ha ha. Wind Flame looked at Yuhao and the others and laughed brazenly. You survivors should have died a long time ago. Even immortals won't be able to save you today, let alone Twin Dragon Sect. Snow Wind Ridge will be removed today. Whoosh! Before his sentence was finished, an ear-piercing sound tore through the air from the distant horizon. Good, good, good. Someone spoke. The first word was still on the horizon. By the time the third word sounded, that voice had already appeared on the battlefield. That speed was shocking. With me around today, who can remove Snow Wind Ridge? A green figure stood in midair with a pair of gigantic golden wings flapping behind him. His black hair danced and his gaze was like lightning. His aura was torrential as he shouted with a divine might that rumbled like thunder. Chapter 1901. Domineering Suppression. Chapter 1901. Domineering Suppression. The arrival of the figure attracted countless gazes. It's Su Zimo. Brother Su. Ha 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 ha, Boss Su isn't dead. Instantly, the entire Snow Wind Ridge was in an uproar. Yuhao and the others were invigorated. That's Su Zimo? I heard that this lad has the ability to kill above his level. Now that he's back, there's going to be many variables in today's battle. I don't think so. No matter how strong that lad is, can he defeat Wind Flame and the other 3 Grade 8 Black Immortals? It was the first time that the leaders of the major factions had seen Su Zimo, and they discussed. Su Zimo, you came at the right time. Dingyi of Black Een Mountain said murderously with a cold gaze, Today, I'll make you pay with your life for my son. Su Zimo, you destroyed 2 bosses of the Evil Wolf Army and massacred thousands of my brothers. I'll make you pay with blood today. Wind Flame shouted as well. Blood for blood. The cultivators of the Evil Wolf Army were already bloodthirsty and roared with a massive might. Roar. Suddenly, Su Zimo opened his mouth and let out a deafening roar towards the crowd below. This was the roar of the Azure Dragon that was even more terrifying than the Dragon Phoenix. It contained a supreme will and a terrifying killing power of the sound domain. The cultivators of the evil wolf army and goshawk gang nearby, Suzimo, shuddered. The bodies of some grade 4 and 5 black immortals were shattered by the roar and turned into blood mists. Blood scars appeared on the faces of some grade 6 black immortals as they fell to the ground with dull gazes and dim expressions. They were already dead. Even many grade 7 black immortals could not defend against it and bled from all 7 orifices. They had tragic expressions and lost their combat strength completely. Against that roar, close to 10,000 cultivators died on the spot. Even dozens of the goshawk army in midair were killed on the spot. The heightened morale of the 100,000-strong army was instantly suppressed by Suzimo's roar and dissipated. In fact, there was a momentary silence on the battlefield. The crowd was astonished. What sound domain secret skill is that? To think that it would possess such terrifying might. The Hall Master of Thundershock Hall exclaimed in shock. Although Thundershock Hall also comprehended a sound domain secret skill, it was far inferior compared to the Azure Dragon roar. Against that roar, his heart trembled slightly and he even had the urge to kowtow. That doesn't make sense. The gang leader of Heavenly Scorpion Gang frowned and murmured. It's said that Suzimo is only a grade 6 black immortal. How can a sound domain secret skill be so lethal? He doesn't seem to be a grade 6 black immortal. Right then, the sect master of Black Light sect seemed to have sensed something and his voice trembled. On the battlefield. Although many black immortals further away from Suzimo managed to escape, they had pained expressions as well. Even Windflame and the other grade 8 black immortals shuddered and felt a sharp pain in their minds, feeling dizzy. How scary! Windflame and the others were secretly alarmed. If they were to fight head-on and Suzimo suddenly roared, they would definitely be killed on the spot if they were distracted. You want to kill me with just a bunch of nobodies? Suzimo glared at Windflame with a burning gaze and said coldly, "Die." Before his sentence was finished, the golden wings behind Suzimo flapped and his speed increased exponentially, turning into a golden streak of light that charged towards Windflame. "Stop him." Windflame was shocked by Suzimo's aura and shouted hurriedly. Body Immobilization Technique. Wind Summoning. Soul-Devouring Palm. The 4 grade 8 black immortals, Windflame, the second boss of the evil wolf army, Sangya, and the vice gang leader of Goshawk Gang attacked together and lesser divine powers burst forth one after another. At the same time, a few cold beams tore through the air. The 4 grade 8 black immortals released their dermic treasures in unison without holding back at all. Humph! In Suzimo's consciousness, the creation lotus platform shone with rays of light. The power of the body immobilization technique was dispelled by him the moment it descended and did not affect him at all. The stronger the essence spirit of the cultivator, the greater the impact of the body immobilization technique on the opponent. However, Suzimo's essence spirit cultivation was already at grade 9 black immortal. The body immobilization technique of a grade 8 black immortal was completely useless against him. As for Suzimo, he released the extreme speed divine power of the Golden Rock. It was so fast that it even passed through the obstruction of the remaining lesser divine powers and dermic treasures. Boom! Many lesser divine powers and dermic treasures missed and collided with a loud bang. The second boss of the evil wolf army who was blocking at the front was shocked. He watched helplessly as a golden light sped over and wanted to dodge. However, the golden light was even faster than his thoughts. Poof! The moment he wanted to escape, the golden light pierced him. Blood gushed out. Ah! The second boss of the evil wolf army let out a tragic cry. The next moment, the cry stopped. The golden light was Suzimo's body and possessed a terrifying power that penetrated the second boss of the evil wolf army. That power was enough to destroy him. Bang! The body of the second boss of the evil wolf army exploded on the spot, and his essence spirit was destroyed. Now that he was dead, the first boss, Windflame, was next. Sensing that the situation was bad, Wind Flame had long escaped from the spot and fled towards the army behind him. He knew the lesser divine power, invisibility. If he could infiltrate the army and release his invisibility, he would definitely be able to avoid Suzumo's senses and escape. As though he sensed Wind Flame's intentions, Suzumo's figure flashed and he vanished from the spot. By the time he reappeared, he was already behind Wind Flame. True Dragon 9 flashes. That secret skill again. Some people who had seen Suzumo attack in Dragon Abyss City exclaimed. Back in the battle beneath Dragon Abyss City, Suzumo's powerful methods had already spread through the Dragon Abyss Star. However, the leaders of the major factions present refused to believe it. How could a black immortal release a technique that was similar to teleportation? It was only when they witnessed it personally that the leaders of the major factions realized how terrifying that movement technique was. Wind Flame was alarmed when he sensed the killing intent behind him. He had also heard that Suzumo possessed a movement technique similar to teleportation. Sensing that something was amiss, he made a prompt decision and channeled his essence spirit, releasing a lesser divine power. He tapped gently towards a grade 6 black immortal not far away and shouted, "Nether swap." The power of divine powers spread. Suddenly, Wind Flame vanished from the spot and was replaced by the grade 6 black immortal not far away. Right in front of everyone, the two of them exchanged positions. That lesser divine power did not have any killing power. However, at that critical moment, Wind Flame managed to escape death by releasing Nether Swap. It was perfect, and he barely avoided the Calamity. There was naturally a reason why Wind Flame could become the first boss of the evil wolf army and dominate for so many years. His alertness and reaction had already surpassed many black immortals of the same cultivation realm. Even the cultivators watching were stunned when they saw that. Unfortunately, this was Suzumo he was up against. Just as Wind Flame made use of Nether Swap to leave his original spot, Suzumo's expression turned cold and his figure flashed as well. He had already cultivated to level 2 of the True Dragon 9 flashes and could flash twice in succession. Chapter 1902, Might of the Fire. Chapter 1902, Might of the Fire. Wind Flame made use of Nether Swap to escape the Calamity. Just as he was about to release his invisibility and hide in the army, he felt his heart skip a beat. An even stronger sense of danger enveloped him. "You can't escape." Suzumo's voice sounded right behind him. Wind Flame's eyes widened in fear, and his scalp felt like it was about to explode. He felt a chill run down his spine and his limbs went cold. Although he still had immense strength, he could not release it at all. How was that possible? He had just released Nether Swap. How could Suzumo arrive behind him in an instant? Bang! Wind Flame no longer had the chance to figure out the reason as a sharp pain surged through his mind. In fact, he could even hear the sound of his skull cracking. A tremendous power surged into his consciousness and shattered his essence spirit. The next moment, Wind Flame lost consciousness. There was a momentary pause on the battlefield. Although Wind Flame did not understand what happened, the bystanders were clear about it. Under countless gazes, Suzumo's figure flashed twice in succession and smashed the top of Wind Flame's head, killing him. The first boss of the evil wolf army, a peak grade 8 black immortal, had dominated the Dragon Abyss Star for many years and experienced countless bloodshed. In the end, he managed to escape death and survive till now. However, he could not escape against the terrifying movement technique of the True Dragon 9 flashes. Even the paragons and monster incarnates among the natives of the upper world might not be able to avoid Suzumo's pursuit, let alone Wind Flame. In just a few breaths, the two bosses of the evil wolf army were dead. The tens of thousands of evil wolf army cultivators were stunned on the spot and could not react in time. Their two bosses who were grade 8 black immortals were dead just like that. Haha. Ko Yong laughed as he fought against Ding Yi. Good kills. Sangya had a grim expression and suddenly shouted, "Everyone, watch out! This person isn't at the level 6 black essence realm. He's a grade 7 black immortal." What? How is that possible? He was only a grade 6 black immortal 30 years ago. What sort of innate physique does that person possess? What cultivation technique did he cultivate such that his cultivation speed is so terrifying? The cultivators were moved. As for Duan Tianliang, Xia Qingying, and the others who were the first to come into contact with Su Zimo in Snow Wind Ridge, they were even more shocked. When Su Zimo first descended on the Dragon Abyss Star, he was only a grade 4 black immortal. Now, it had only been slightly more than 100 years and Su Zimo was already a grade 7 black immortal. This cultivation speed was something that even some top-tier experts and successors of powerful sects with countless cultivation resources and cultivation techniques could not achieve. Could this lad be the reincarnation of an immortal? In the upper world, there were some legends that said that once one's cultivation reached a certain realm, as long as they could ensure that a wisp of their soul did not dissipate and entered reincarnation, they could be reborn. When immortals were reborn and cultivated to a certain realm, they could recover their memories of their previous lives. Some immortals would be reborn and even have seniors, Dao companions or kin of their previous lives to welcome them back to the immortal sections. Even the reincarnation of an immortal can't cultivate so quickly, right? The leaders of the Scorpion Gang, Thundershock Hall, and the others were shocked. Goshawk Gang, heed my orders, Sangya said in a deep voice. Continue rising into the air and distance yourself from that lad before attacking. That was his greatest reliance. Hundreds of cultivators rode on goshawks and circled in the skies, looking down from above. They were almost invincible and no one could threaten them. The hundreds of Goshawk Gang cultivators did not dare to be careless and rose into the air hurriedly. Su Zimo looked up and sneered. Sangya, do you think that the pair of golden wings behind me are just for show? The moment he said that, Su Zimo flapped his golden wings and took off. Phew! A golden light surged into the skies and in the blink of an eye, Su Zimo was dozens of feet above the ground, even higher than the hundreds of goshawks. Those were the wings of the Golden Rock. Among birds, the Golden Rock was the absolute king. Retreat! Retreat! Sangya's expression changed starkly as he shouted. Su Zimo descended from the skies and charged into the Goshawk Gang. He was almost unstoppable. The massacre had already begun. Run! Many of the Goshawk Gang cultivators howled and fled in all directions. However, no matter how fast the goshawk was, it could not match the speed of the Golden Rock. Before long, Su Zimo would catch up and kill them on the spot. Southern Mingli Fire. Su Zimo channeled his essence spirit and conjured hand seals. Suddenly, 2 pure white flames appeared in his palm. They were demonic and terrifying, emitting frightening air currents. This time round, he did not fuse the Southern Mingli Fire with the 3 Dao Fires. After all, the Southern Mingli Fire was a secret skill recorded on the bronze square tripod, and he wanted to test its power. Burn! Su Zimo's spirit consciousness moved and 2 balls of flames floated out, scattering in midair and forming a gigantic firewall that blocked the hundreds of Goshawk Gang cultivators. Many of the Goshawk Gang cultivators released their divine powers, channeled secret skills, summoned dermic treasures, tore talismans, and released many trump cards, wanting to break through the obstruction of the firewall. Poof! 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 Unfortunately, be it divine powers or dermic treasures, they were incinerated upon entering the Southern Mingli Fire. Some of the goshawks that collided with it were burned to ashes before long. Even a single spark would ignite a raging fire in the body of the Goshawk Gang cultivators and eventually engulf them. It was like a flame cage that trapped hundreds of the Goshawk Gang cultivators within, and no one could escape. Even the vice gang leader of Goshawk Gang, a grade 8 black immortal, could not withstand the heat of the Southern Mingli Fire and fell from midair, turning into ashes before he even landed on the ground. I've long heard that Su Zimo specializes in fire Dao techniques. To think that that flame would be so terrifying. The power of that flame shouldn't be at its limits yet. Under Dragon Abyss City, Su Zimo once released a secret skill of fire that fused flames of different colors and increased its might by several times. That single flame is already so powerful. If it's fused with a few more flames, The leaders of many factions no longer dared to think about it. Those flames could definitely kill them with ease. In midair, under the illumination of the flames, Song Ya's face was pale and his eyes were filled with shock, fear, and regret. Fellow Taoist Su, I admit defeat. Song Ya took a deep breath and grit his teeth. Exalted Immortal, I wonder if you can give me a chance. I'm willing to serve you and follow you. Not only did Song Ya change the way he addressed Su Zimo, he even knelt down. Exalted Immortal, the tens of thousands of troops under my lead will also obey your orders. Song Ya's heart was clear as a mirror, and he had long understood. The two bosses of the evil wolf army and the vice gang leader of the Goshawk gang were dead. He was the only one left, and it was difficult for him to survive alone. If he could follow Su Zimo, not only would he be able to survive, he might even obtain some benefits. Although it was humiliating, it was nothing compared to his life. You're not worthy. Just as Song Ya was plotting his plan, Su Zimo's voice sounded. Although it was only 3 words, it caused his heart to sink instantly. You. Song Ya raised his head and was about to speak. Su Zimo had already arrived beside him and closed his fingers. The surrounding southern Mingli fire gathered and returned to his palm instantly. Su Zimo threw it casually. The ball of southern Mingli fire landed on Song Ya's head. Ah! With a tragic cry, the flames engulfed Song Ya. Chapter 1903, Alliance. Chapter 1903, Alliance. The crowd was shocked. It was only less than half an hour since Su Zimo appeared. However, the strongest 4 black immortals of the evil wolf army and Goshawk gang were already dead. The leaders of the major factions were only grade 8 black immortals, and their combat strength was similar to Windflame and the other 3 who died. This meant that if Su Zimo were to attack them, they would not be able to last long either. The leaders of the major factions were wary and secretly alarmed. Although the tens of thousands of troops of the evil wolf army and Goshawk gang were violent and bloodthirsty, the army began to turn chaotic when they saw Windflame and the other 3 die. Some were fighting, some were fleeing, some were at a loss, and the tens of thousands of troops were in a state of disunity. If those bandits were to escape, they would not be a threat to Su Zimo. However, it could become a latent danger for Snow Wind Ridge. With a cold expression, Su Zimo conjured a sword art with both hands and released his massive spirit consciousness, slashing towards the crowd beneath him. TSK, TSK, TSK. The sword art in his right hand released 100,000 sword chi that was white and blinding. Killing intent surged into the firmaments and shifted stars. Every single sword chi was incomparably sharp and could penetrate the flesh of many bandits in the crowd. What was even more frightening was that on the battlefield below, cultivators of the Goshawk gang, Evil Wolf Army, Snow Wind Ridge, and Twin Dragon Sect were fighting. As for the 100,000 sword chi, every single one of them could slash towards the bandits of the Evil Wolf Army and Goshawk gang with extreme precision without any accidental injuries. Initially, Su Jian was worried that the cultivators of Twin Dragon Sect would be implicated by such a terrifying sword art. To think that the sword chi would bypass their cultivators and stab towards the bandits as though they were sentient. What powerful control! Su Jian was secretly speechless. To be able to control 100,000 sword chi accurately, Su Zimo's essence spirit cultivation was probably not only at the level 7 black essence realm. The battlefield was filled with whales and rivers of blood. The heaven-slaying sword art was extremely lethal. Finally, the tens of thousands of bandits could not hold on any longer and broke down, fleeing in all directions. However, not many people could leave this place alive against the pursuit of Snow Wind Ridge, Twin Dragon Sect, and the encirclement of the heaven-slaying sword chi. A blood mist spread and broken limbs flew everywhere. The cultivators of the major factions, such as the Heavenly Scorpion Gang, were dumbfounded with shocked expressions. Ever since they ascended to the upper world and descended on the Dragon Abyss Star for so many years, they had never seen such a bloody battle personally. The lives of tens of thousands of troops were like grass against the fingertips of the green-robed cultivator. Everywhere he pointed his sword fingers was met with destruction. Roar! Roar! Su Zimo's left hand slashed out a dragon snake. A divine dragon descended from the skies, and the soaring serpent tore through the ground, charging towards Ding Yi and the right protector of Black Een Mountain. Ding Ye's expression changed starkly. Actually, he had already thought of retreating when Windcloud and Sangya died one after another. However, he and the right protector were entangled by Ko Yong and Su Jian and could not break free for the time being. To think that Su Zimo's counterattack would be so fast, ferocious, and domineering that he did not even have the chance to react. The right protector was already trembling in fear to begin with. Even without the arrival of the dragon snake of the earth-slaying sword art, he would not be able to last long against Su Jian. Now that the dragon snake had arrived, the right protector of Black Een Mountain shrieked tragically and was minced by the dragon snake instantly without a corpse left. Su Zimo, you? Ding Yi opened his mouth, wanting to say something. In a flash, Su Zimo had already arrived before him, glaring at him coldly with a lightning gaze. Ding Ye's heart turned cold when he was glared at by those two gazes. Su Zimo merely stood opposite him motionlessly and looked at him calmly, revealing an unstoppable might and determination. Ding Yi felt as though he was hallucinating, and there were mountains of corpses alongside seas of blood behind Su Zimo. His spirit collapsed instantly. Ko Yong seized the opportunity and slashed down. A gigantic head flew into the air and blood gushed out. Ding Ye's head spun a few times in midair before it was split into pieces by Ko Yong once more, and his essence spirit was destroyed. None of the 500 cultivators that Ding Yi brought dared to stand out when they saw that. Brother Su, you sure are capable. Ko Yong could not help but exclaim. Su Jian cupped his fists and smiled at Su Zimo as well. I heard Wanner mention you often. Initially, I didn't believe it. Now that I've seen it for myself, I know that she's not lying. The Wanner that Su Jian was referring to was Su Wan. Su Zimo nodded to the twin dragons, and his expression softened. Thank you. Thereafter, he nodded slightly to Su Wan. Among the 7 major factions, only Twin Dragon Sect was willing to stand out and help Snow Wind Ridge. Su Wan was definitely involved. At this point of the battle, there was no doubt. The 2 great bandits were completely defeated and were hunted down by cultivators of Twin Dragon Sect and Snow Wind Ridge. There were few who could escape alive. Arriving beside Yu Hao and the Silver Giant, Su Zimo took out some healing immortal medicine from his storage bag and fed it to the 2 of them. There was no longer a need for him to attack in this battle. Boss Su, I knew you weren't dead, hee. Duan Tianliang's cultivation realm was not high, and he did not join the battle. At that moment, he ran over with a pandering smile. Woof, woof. Big Yellow barked at the side as well. Brother Su, that change 30 years ago caused too much of a stir. Yu Hao said. It said that many Earth Immortals and Heaven Immortals died in that abyss. There was no news of you after you left, and we all thought that you were already. Su Zimo said. Indeed, the trip to the abyss was extremely dangerous. I only managed to survive by chance. Thankfully, I returned in time. Due to the existence of the Immortal Formation, most of Snow Wind Ridge was not destroyed. The pursuit lasted till nightfall before many cultivators returned. The main hall of Snow Wind Ridge was brightly lit. The leaders of the major factions were in no hurry to leave. Instead, they waited for the battle to end and came to greet. They knew in their hearts that as long as Su Zimo was around, no one on the Dragon Abyss Star would be able to challenge Snow Wind Ridge in the future. However, Su Zimo was only a Grade 7 Black Immortal with unlimited potential. Even if they could not form an alliance with such an expert, they could not afford to offend him. The leaders of those factions even gathered some gifts at the last minute, such as essence condensation pills, to give to Snow Wind Ridge as a form of goodwill. Yu Hao was initially hesitant. However, Su Zimo did not reject them and accepted everything. Thereafter, he sent away the leaders of the factions and did not even ask them to attend the evening banquet. These leaders were all pragmatic people, and there was no need to form deep relationships with them. Su Zimo only valued Twin Dragon Sect. At the banquet, under Su Zimo's suggestion, Twin Dragon Sect formed an alliance with Snow Wind Ridge. Naturally, Su Zimo had his reasons for doing so. Twin Dragon Sect wished for nothing more. Be it the Twin Dragons or Yu Hao, they were all straightforward people who regretted not meeting sooner and drank merrily without any fatigue. Su Zimo retreated quietly and stood at the entrance of the hall, looking into the distance in deep thought. Xia Qingying was meticulous and vaguely sensed something as she followed. Chapter 1904, Farewell. Chapter 1904, Farewell. Fellow Taoist Su, Yu. Xia Qingying came behind Su Zimo and hesitated. Su Zimo said softly, "I'm leaving." Xia Qingying was silent. She had already guessed it. At the banquet earlier on, Su Zimo took the initiative to form an alliance between Snow Wind Ridge and Twin Dragon Sect. In reality, he wanted Snow Wind Ridge to have another ally and leave a way out for them. However, now that Su Zimo said it personally, she still felt a surge of complicated emotions. She was a little reluctant and enlightened. Actually, more than 100 years ago, when Xia Qingying knew that Su Zimo had transcended 4 heavenly tribulations and ascended to the upper world, she realized that he would definitely leave this place and the Dragon Abyss Star. However, she had not expected this day to arrive so quickly. In just 100 years, the person before her had already cultivated to a grade 7 Black Immortal. That cultivation speed was unimaginable. What was even more frightening was that this person's current status on the Dragon Abyss Star was extremely important, and his reputation was unparalleled. The leaders of the major factions had to take the initiative to befriend him. This person was like a divine dragon who had only washed up on the shallows by some freak coincidence. There would come a day where he would eventually head to an even more magnificent river. "When do you expect to leave?" Xia Qingying asked. Su Zimo said deeply, "There's no hurry. I'll make a move after imparting all the dermic arts of this immortal formation to you guys." "All right." Xia Qingying nodded in agreement. Su Zimo thought for a moment and reminded, "Also, don't tell anyone about my departure." Xia Qingying was slightly stunned but understood quickly. As long as the cultivators outside thought that Su Zimo was still in Snow Wind Ridge, no one would dare harbor designs on it. The battle at Dragon Abyss City, the trampling of Blood Sun Valley, and the annihilation of the 2 great bandits. Those 3 battles were enough to shock everyone. As long as there was enough time, and Yu Hao and the others grew, Snow Wind Ridge would be able to match the major factions even without Su Zimo. Right then, Duan Tianliang and Big Yellow finished tidying up the battlefield and ran over happily. "Boss Su, we've gained too much this time round." Duan Tianliang took out a storage bag and handed it to Su Zimo, saying excitedly, "The storage bags of the 100,000 bandits, including Wind Flame and the others, are inside." "Yes." Su Zimo received the storage bags and checked them rapidly. While there were indeed many things in the storage bags of the 2 great bandits, there was almost nothing that was truly useful to Su Zimo. This was the remote Dragon Abyss Star after all, and apart from the battlefield in the Abyss, there were almost no treasures. However, Su Zimo collected all the Essence Spirit Stones in the storage bags, and there were more than 400 of them. He put away the Essence Spirit Stones and handed the remaining storage bags to Xia Qingying. After pondering for a moment, Su Zimo took out another 100 Essence Spirit Stones and handed them to Xia Qingying. The operation of the Immortal formation required the energy within Essence Spirit Stones. He left the 100 Essence Spirit Stones for Snow Wind Ridge as a precaution. For the next period of time, Su Zimo stayed in Snow Wind Ridge and imparted the formation patterns, control and operation of the Immortal formation to Xia Qingying and Yu Hao. Su Zimo had already expended dozens of Essence Spirit Stones to break through to Grade 7 Black Immortal. The remaining 300 Essence Spirit Stones were not enough for him to break through to Grade 8 Black Immortal. On the Dragon Abyss Star, it was almost impossible to obtain Essence Spirit Stones without an Essence Spirit Stone mine. The only way to obtain more Essence Spirit Stones was to leave the Dragon Abyss Star and head to the wider green cloud county. The essence chi there was also richer, and he could cultivate faster. Furthermore, Meiji was an outstanding talent among the heaven immortals after all. It was inevitable that her death here might attract more experts of the same sect. The longer he lingered on the Dragon Abyss star, the easier it would be for other changes to happen. A year later, Xia Qingying and Yu Hao had already mastered most of the immortal formation, and what was left was familiarity and comprehension. Although Su Zimo had not mentioned it for the past year, Duan Tianliang, Big Yellow, and the others had already vaguely sensed something. Nobody pointed it out. The day before Su Zimo left, Big Yellow reverted to his human form. The next night, he left quietly without informing anyone. More than 100 years ago, he arrived on the Dragon Abyss star alone. Now, he was also leaving alone. He did not owe Snow Wind Ridge anything. Over the years, he had saved Snow Wind Ridge from the brink of death countless times and left many resources for them to grow. The karma between him and Snow Wind Ridge had been severed, and he no longer had any ties in his heart. Right then, Su Zimo, who was in midair, seemed to have sensed something and suddenly paused, turning around. A few figures stood at the entrance of Snow Wind Ridge and looked at him from afar. Even though it was night and they were 50 kilometers apart, Su Zimo could still see their appearances clearly. Yu Hao, Xia Qingying, Shen Fei, Gu Wenjun, Duan Tianliang. These people had still come out to send him off. A warm feeling flowed through Su Zimo's heart. After looking at everyone for a long time, he took a deep breath and turned around. With his back facing everyone, he waved and disappeared into the night. I wonder if I'll have the chance to see Boss Su again in the future. Duan Tianliang sighed softly with a dejected expression. Yu Hao said, Brother Su doesn't belong here after all. We're too far away from him, and that distance would most likely only increase in the future. Shen Fei smiled and pretended to be relaxed. That's good too. If fellow Taoist Su makes a name for himself in Green Cloud County one day, we might be able to brag about our experiences with him all these years. Suppressing the melancholy of parting in his heart, Su Zimo composed himself and sped towards Dragon Abyss City. His cultivation was not high enough, and he could only make use of the teleportation formation in Dragon Abyss City if he wanted to leave the Dragon Abyss Star and head to Green Cloud County. There were two ways to use the teleportation formation to leave. The first was to cultivate to Grade 9 Black Immortal. Second, he had to pay 100 Essence Spirit Stones. 100 Essence Spirit Stones was a little painful. However, as long as he could arrive at Green Cloud County safely, he would have more chances to obtain more Essence Spirit Stones. Half a month later, Su Zimo arrived at Dragon Abyss City. Dragon Abyss City had not changed much after dozens of years. On the other hand, the few guards at the entrance were first stunned when they saw Su Zimo before their expressions changed. Most of the cultivators in the city had witnessed the battle beneath Dragon Abyss City personally. Furthermore, Su Zimo's reputation had grown over the years. After destroying the two great bandits a year ago, he was even more famous and everyone knew about him. Many guards were wary when they saw Su Zimo arrive and even forgot to collect his entrance fee. Su Zimo smiled faintly and took out 1,000 essence condensation pills, stuffing them into the hands of a guard. Excuse me, badge. The guard took 2 steps back instinctively with a cautious gaze. He paused for a moment before throwing a badge back to Su Zimo. Su Zimo received the badge. In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, he headed straight for the city lord's residence, prepared to pay the Essence Spirit Stones and leave immediately. He had a feud with Lu Tong in Dragon Abyss City. If Lu Tong knew that he had entered the city once more, there was a high chance that something would happen. Chapter 1905, Killing Intent. Chapter 1905, Killing Intent. Not long after Su Zimo entered the city, many guards reacted. A guard hurriedly took out a messenger talisman from his storage bag and wrote a sentence on it. With a casual toss, the talisman transformed into a streak of light and vanished. After Su Zimo entered the city, many people recognized him and caused a commotion. He ignored everyone's shocked gazes and sprinted forward. Before long, he arrived at the city lord's residence. There were 10 guards on both sides of the entrance of the city lord's residence, and it was heavily guarded. Zemo walked forward and cupped his fists towards one of the tall and skinny guards. I want to use the teleportation formation to leave the Dragon Abyss Star and head to Green Cloud County. The guards of the city lord's residence guarded this place all year round and would almost never leave. Back then, when Zemo fought beneath Dragon Abyss City, none of them went to the city wall to watch the battle. Therefore, they had never seen Zemo before. Even if they had heard of Zemo's name, they could not recognize him. You? The tall and skinny guard sized Zemo up and could not help but sneer when he saw that the latter was only a grade 7 black immortal. You'll have to pay 100 essence spirit stones to use the teleportation formation. Can you afford it? In his opinion, even the commanders of Dragon Abyss City might not be able to produce 100 essence spirit stones, let alone this green-robed scholar. Zemo did not argue and took out a storage bag that he had prepared long ago. Opening it, he revealed the 100 essence spirit stones inside. The few guards swept their gazes and were shocked when they saw it clearly. This unassuming grade 7 black immortal could casually take out 100 essence spirit stones. Greed flashed through the eyes of the tall and skinny guard. He said expressionlessly, "Follow me." Under a few fervent gazes, Zemo followed the tall and skinny guard into the city lord's residence with a calm expression. The tall and skinny guard led the way and Zemo followed closely behind. After walking for a while, the tall and skinny guard suddenly turned around and asked loudly with a burning gaze, "Speak. Where did you get those 100 essence spirit stones?" If it was anyone else, they would feel uneasy upon entering the city lord's residence. After all, the city lord's residence was the most noble place on the Dragon Abyss Star, and ordinary people would not have the chance to come into contact with it. Given those circumstances alongside the tall and skinny guard's threat, anyone who was caught off guard would definitely panic. Once they revealed their fear, they would most likely not dare to lie to the tall and skinny guard. However, when the tall and skinny guard suddenly stopped in his tracks and was about to turn around, Zemo seemed to have sensed it and stopped as well. The tall and skinny guard's move had no effect on Zemo at all. Zemo merely looked at the tall and skinny guard calmly. "By chance, I obtained dozens of essence spirit stones. The remaining ones were accumulated by me over the years, adding up to the 100 total." Looking at the calm Zemo, the tall and skinny guard was slightly disappointed. "Where did you obtain the dozens of essence spirit stones?" The tall and skinny guard continued asking. "That abyss?" Zemo replied. "There were many earth immortals and heaven immortals buried in the abyss." Even if the tall and skinny guard did not believe it, he would not dare to check. When the tall and skinny guard saw Zemo's calm expression and flawless reply, he knew that he would not be able to get anything out of the latter even if he continued asking. "Hand me the 100 essence spirit stones." The tall and skinny guard extended his palm and said firmly. Zemo raised his brow slightly and asked, "Where's the teleportation formation?" The tall and skinny guard pointed in a direction. "Follow this path, and you'll see the teleportation formation in about 10 minutes. Hurry, give me the essence spirit stones." The tall and skinny guard urged impatiently. Zemo was still motionless as he asked again, "If I give you the essence spirit stones and head to the teleportation formation, I can leave this place immediately?" "Humph." The tall and skinny guard could not help but sneer and mock. "You must be dreaming. Do you think that the teleportation formation of the Dragon Abyss Star is only activated for you? Who do you think you are?" Zemo was not bothered by the tall and skinny guard's mockery. This was the city lord's residence, and he did not want to create unnecessary trouble. "What do you mean?" Zemo asked. The tall and skinny guard said, "The teleportation formation only activates once a year at a fixed time. It's only been 2 months since it was last activated. If you want to activate the teleportation formation during this period of time, you'll have to gather 10 people." Zemo frowned. Judging from the tall and skinny guard's gaze, he should not be lying. However, it was impossible to gather 10 cultivators with 100 essence spirit stones within a short period of time. In other words, he would have to wait for at least 10 months before he could leave the Dragon Abyss Star. Under normal circumstances, 10 months would pass in the blink of an eye. However, there was a high chance that Lu Tong knew about his whereabouts. The longer he lingered, the easier it would be for something to happen. Hand me the essence spirit stones and come back in 10 months. The tone of the tall and skinny guard turned increasingly impatient. Su Zimo took out his storage bag and was about to hand it to the tall and skinny guard when he suddenly retracted it and asked with a fake smile, "If I give you the essence spirit stones and you suddenly deny it 10 months later?" Insolent. The expression of the tall and skinny guard changed, and he revealed killing intent. Indeed, he had that intention. Now that Su Zimo exposed it, he could not help but feel enraged and wanted to kill. When Su Zimo saw the reaction of the tall and skinny guard, it confirmed his guess. He put away his storage bag and said indifferently, "Since that's the case, I'll come again 10 months later. At that time, I'll hand over the essence spirit stones with both hands." With that said, Su Zimo turned to leave, prepared to leave Dragon Abyss City and lie low for the time being. "Don't even think about leaving without my permission." The tall and skinny guard had a dark expression and strode forward murderously. Suddenly, he slapped Su Zimo on the head. The tall and skinny guard did not hold back at all. He wanted to slap Su Zimo to death. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes with killing intent as well. The tall and skinny guard was only a grade 7 black immortal. He had 100 ways to kill this person instantly. However, if he killed this person, it would definitely cause a stir in the City Lord's residence and Dragon Abyss City. At that time, the City Lord's residence would be even more guarded, and it would be impossible for him to use the teleportation formation to leave. At that thought, Su Zimo moved and avoided the palm of the tall and skinny guard with ease. He turned around with a cold gaze. "As a guard of the City Lord's residence, are you intending to rob me openly?" Su Zimo said slowly. The tall and skinny guard grit his teeth and sneered. "What can you do even if I rob you openly? You're just a lowlife. It's your honor that I'm willing to take your essence spirit stones." Clang. The tall and skinny guard pulled out a shiny saber and said coldly, "Since you don't know what's good for you, I'll send you to hell today." With that said, the blood chi of the tall and skinny guard surged, and he became one with his saber. Descending from the skies, he tore through the void and slashed down with a thunderous might. Su Zimo's expression darkened, and his eyes shone coldly. He was already prepared to leave this place immediately after killing this person and escape from Dragon Abyss City to hide before making further plans. Given his current capabilities, even the City Lord of Dragon Abyss City would not be able to hold him back. Chapter 1906, Killing in the City. Chapter 1906, Killing in the City. Su Zimo's expression was calm as he looked at the tall and skinny guard who descended from the skies with an aggressive aura. However, he did not move at all. The tall and skinny guard sneered internally. When he saw that Su Zimo was a grade 7 black immortal, he did not dare to be careless and did not hold back at all, releasing 100% of his strength. To think that the grade 7 black immortal seemed to have been scared out of his wits and gave up on resisting. The tall and skinny guard was about to slice the green-robed scholar into two when the latter suddenly attacked. There were no complicated movements or secret skills or divine powers. He merely extended his palm and grabbed the saber. A mantis trying to stop a chariot. The tall and skinny guard hollered and channeled his blood chi, causing his saber beam to flare. Piak. When the saber struck the green-robed scholar's palm, there was no blood as the tall and skinny guard had imagined. Not only that, his supreme black-grade saber could not leave a single scar on that seemingly fair palm. To be precise, there were no marks at all even. All the energy he released vanished like a rock sinking into the ocean. How was that possible? The tall and skinny guard's eyes widened in disbelief, and he froze on the spot. Right then, Su Zimo closed his fingers and gripped the long saber of the tall and skinny guard, exerting strength in his palm. Crack! There was a crisp sound. The tall and skinny guard shuddered, and his pupils constricted. The saber in his hands was snapped by Su Zimo single-handedly. Pissed, the tall and skinny guard was shocked and looked at Su Zimo as though he had seen a ghost. This method had already surpassed his understanding. His saber was a supreme black-grade dermic treasure that could only be broken by a connate black-grade dermic treasure. However, there were no traces of dermic treasures on the person's palm. Now that Su Zimo was at level 7 Black Essence Realm, the Green Lotus True Body was also growing continuously. If he used his full strength, the Green Lotus True Body could even take on a connate black-grade dermic treasure head-on. Naturally, it could cripple this saber with ease. The tall and skinny guard froze on the spot, but Su Zimo did not stop attacking. He snapped the saber and gripped half of it. Striding forward, he slapped the half of the saber into the tall and skinny guard's face. The saber pierced the person's head and consciousness. Su Zimo, how dare you? Right then, a shout sounded not far away. Su Zimo? You're Su Zimo? Just as the tall and skinny guard's essence spirit was about to dissipate, he finally realized who the green-robed cultivator before him was upon hearing that name. Unfortunately, it was already too late by the time he realized that. Su Zimo turned around slowly and looked over. Not far away, hundreds of Dragon Abyss City guards sped over with a murderous aura. Their leader was Commander Lu Tong, who had a feud with him. Su Zimo released his spirit consciousness and scanned Lu Tong, frowning slightly. Grade 9 Black Immortal. Back then, when Lu Tong chased after him and released his secret skill, he returned fruitless and even injured his essence chi. It was unknown what opportunities this person obtained, but his injuries healed within dozens of years, and he even entered the level 9 Black Essence realm. Surround him. Lu Tong ordered swiftly in a deep voice. Activate the formation of the City Lord's residence. We must not let that lad escape from this place. Hundreds of city guards spread out rapidly and surrounded Su Zimo. Everyone took out their dermic treasures with wary expressions, prepared to attack at any moment. At the same time, a blue barrier extended from the wall of the City Lord's residence and enveloped the entire place. There was a formation around the City Lord's residence. Lu Tong was clearly worried that Su Zimo would summon the Golden Rock Wings and soar into the skies to escape from Dragon Abyss City. After doing that, Lu Tong strode over and paused not far away from Su Zimo, sneering, Su Zimo, I was about to look for you. To think that you would come knocking on my door. Do you think that you can stop me with just these few people? Su Zimo asked with an indifferent expression. Ha 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 ha. Lu Tong burst into laughter. You truly don't know that you're about to die. How dare you kill someone in the residence of the City Lord? You won't be able to escape today. Retrieving his saber from his storage bag, Lu Tong glared at Su Zimo murderously. As long as he gave the order, a huge battle would break out. All of you, stop. Right then, a shout sounded from the depths of the City Lord's residence. The voice was slightly tender, as though the person was young. Su Zimo frowned with a strange expression. He felt that the voice was familiar, as though he had heard it somewhere before. Su Zimo looked over. Not far away, a young man walked over. He was at the level 6 Black Essence realm and revealed a dignified aura as he walked. It's him. Su Zimo was slightly stunned. This young man was none other than the person he had unintentionally saved from the black fog back in the abyss, Su Xiaotian. Black Immortals had a lifespan of 100,000 years. That was the reason why he still looked like a young man after dozens of years. Greetings, young master. When the hundreds of guards saw Su Xiaotian, they put down their dermic treasures and cupped their fists. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. From the looks of it, his status in the City Lord's residence was not low. Back then, Su Xiaotian wore a jade pendant on his waist. It was because of that jade pendant that he managed to survive in the black fog for a long time before finally meeting Su Zimo. Cultivators who could possess that sort of treasure naturally had extraordinary backgrounds. From the way the guards referred to him, there was a high chance that he was the child of the Dragon Abyss City's city lord. Suzimo relaxed and was prepared to wait and see. It would naturally be for the best if they could resolve the current situation without a huge battle. If he were to start a massacre in the city lord's residence, even if he escaped to Green Cloud County in the future, he would be hunted down by the immortal army of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom, and there would never be peace. Xiaotian, what are you doing here? Lu Tong frowned. Su Xiaotian bowed to Lu Tong as a junior. Uncle Lu, I came over to take a look when I saw the city lord's residence's formation being activated. What are you guys doing? Why are you guys so tense? Don't interfere in this matter. I'll handle it. Lu Tong waved his hand. Su Xiaotian glanced at Su Zimo and gave the latter a comforting look before turning to Lu Tong and saying firmly, Uncle Lu, you can't touch this person. Lu Tong's expression changed as he hollered. What did you say? This man killed someone in the city lord's residence, and it was even a guard of our Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. He deserves to die. How dare you say that I can't touch him? You're still young. Hurry and retreat, and don't interfere in this matter. Lu Tong's tone turned increasingly stern. However, Su Xiaotian continued to stand in front of Su Zimo and said in a deep voice, Uncle Lu, this person saved my life. Humph. Lu Tong's expression darkened completely as he said coldly, just because he saved your life, he thinks that he can kill the guards of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom as he pleases. Even your father won't be able to protect him in this matter, let alone you. The aura that Lu Tong exuded turned increasingly sharp as it crushed towards Su Xiaotian. Su Xiaotian was only a grade 6 black immortal after all. Against that aura, his face was pale and he could barely hold on. However, he still had a stubborn expression and refused to retreat. He clenched his fists and argued, Uncle Lu, there might be some other reason. Scram. Lu Tong interrupted him with a cold gaze. If you dare to stop me again, I'll suppress you as well. Chapter 1907, Open Strife. Chapter 1907, Open Strife. Who do you want to suppress? Right then, a cold voice sounded out of nowhere. Not far away, a middle-aged man walked over. He had a cold expression and his eyes were bright with a hint of authority. Greetings, City Lord. Many Dragon Abyss City guards bowed hurriedly when they saw that person. Father. When Su Xiaotian saw that person, he called out with a delighted expression. The City Lord of Dragon Abyss City, Su Shi. Su Zimo's gaze swept across Su Shi and Lu Tong as he secretly compared them. Although both of them were grade 9 black immortals, Su Shi's aura was clearly superior to Lu Tong. As though he could not match Su Shi's gaze, Lu Tong lowered his head slightly with a dark expression and cupped his fists. I was anxious and wanted to kill the villain, so I spoke a little more intensely. Please forgive me, City Lord. Rolling his pitch-black eyes, Su Xiaotian hurriedly sent a voice transmission to Su Shi's spirit consciousness. Father, he's Su Zimo, the person who saved me in the abyss back then. Su Shi's expression was unchanged, and he did not even look at Su Zimo. He merely looked at Lu Tong and asked, Commander Lu, who is the villain you're referring to? Him. Lu Tong pointed at Su Zimo and said in a deep voice, although I have some personal grudges with this person, I won't use my position to take revenge. However, I saw him kill a city guard in your residence earlier on. A guard at the side nodded and echoed. We saw it too. Su Shi glanced at the corpse without saying anything and was still expressionless. Earlier on, Xiaotian said that this person saved him. Even so, he can't escape death for killing in the city lord's residence. Lu Tong shouted with an enraged expression. Killing an immortal soldier of Great Gene is a provocation to the dignity of the Great Gene dynasty. It's unforgivable. That's right. Exactly. Lu Tong's words were firm and powerful, attracting the agreement of many Dragon Abyss City guards. An imperceptible smugness flashed through Lu Tong's eyes as he cupped his fists once more. He looked at Su Shi meaningfully and asked with a smile, This is no small matter. I believe that you won't be biased, City Lord, right? Su Zimo frowned. Although Lu Tong's tone was respectful at the end, there was a hint of arrogance and dominance. Su Shi was still expressionless. Su Zimo's gaze lingered between Su Shi and Lu Tong thoughtfully. The city lord's residence fell into silence, and the atmosphere turned tense. However, Su Zimo looked relaxed, as though everything before him had nothing to do with him. "Father, I believe there must be some misunderstanding." When Su Xiaotian saw that the situation was not right, he said anxiously, "What misunderstanding?" Su Shi finally spoke and asked. "This?" Su Xiaotian was speechless. Su Shi shifted his gaze towards Su Zimo, who was not far away, and said slowly, "You do deserve death if you had killed my guard without any reason." Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he understood what Su Shi was implying. He cupped his fists and said, "I had no other choice but to attack him." Thereafter, Su Zimo recounted everything that happened earlier on. Those were all facts, and there was no need for him to hide them. Lu Tong frowned when he heard that. "Father, look, I told you that it's not Brother Su's fault," Su Xiaotian said with a smile. With that said, he even kicked the corpse of the tall and skinny guard specially and hollered, "You're truly a disgrace to Dragon Abyss City and the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom." Naturally, Lu Tong refused to give up and said in a deep voice, "So what if we try to rob his essence spirit stones as soldiers of Great Gene Immortal Kingdom? It's not a crime equivalent to death. He's just a lowlife." Su Shi narrowed his gaze and said coldly, "Commander Lu, I ascended from the lower worlds as well. Could it be that in your eyes, I'm also a lowlife?" "I wouldn't dare." Lu Tong lowered his head slightly and said. Although he said that he wouldn't dare, there was no fear on his face. Instead, he looked a little arrogant. Su Zimo fell into deep thought when he saw that. Although the exchange between Su Shi and Lu Tong was short, it revealed a lot of information. The city lord of Dragon Abyss City was also someone who had ascended from the lower worlds. However, Lu Tong clearly knew that. Although he was targeting Su Zimo with his words earlier on, there was a higher chance that he was referring to him as well. Su Shi could tell, and that was why he retaliated. However, the strange thing was that Su Shi did not really punish Lu Tong for his repeated offenses. Su Zimo could vaguely sense that after Lu Tong advanced to a grade 9 Black Immortal, there was a high chance he would challenge Su Shi for the position of the city lord. The two of them might have already fallen out and are fighting in secret. However, because of the matter of his unintentional barging in today, the two of them had a direct conflict. Surveying his surroundings, Su Shi said slowly, "A soldier of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom openly robbing essence spirit stones in Dragon Abyss City. How is that different from those bandits outside? If I knew about this, I would kill him personally as well as a warning to others." His words were extremely harsh, implying that the tall and skinny guard deserved to die. "Disperse." Su Shi waved his hand gently and turned to leave. Su Xiaotian tugged at Su Zimo's sleeves secretly and sent a voice transmission, "Brother Su, follow me." With that, he chased after Su Shi with Su Zimo. Lu Tong's expression was dark, and he remained silent. The surrounding hundreds of guards exchanged glances and did not step in. The guards could also sense the subtle changes between Lu Tong and Su Shi. However, no matter what, the current city lord was still Su Shi. None of them was a fool and would not be the silly one to step out. Lu Tong could only watch helplessly as Su Zimo disappeared into the distance. However, Lu Tong seemed to have thought of something and sneered. On the other side, Su Zimo and Su Xiaotian followed behind Su Shi and conversed softly. Before long, a grand hall appeared before them. It was built with green rocks and looked dignified. Su Shi walked straight in and sat on the seat of the city lord in the middle of the hall, looking down at Su Zimo, who had just entered. When Su Shi appeared, he did not even look at Su Zimo directly. It was only then that he began to scrutinize Su Zimo with a frightening gaze, as though he wanted to see the latter through. Su Shi stared at Su Zimo for a moment and realized that even with his experience and knowledge, he could not see through this seemingly frail scholar before him. The more that was the case, the more suspicious he was. All these years, he had naturally heard of a genius that appeared out of nowhere on the Dragon Abyss star. To think that this person would have even saved Xiaotian before, could there be a trap? What secrets did this person have? Did this person have any other motives? If not for that caution, Su Shi would not have been able to stand out from the many people who had ascended from the lower worlds and ascend to the position of the City Lord of Dragon Abyss City step by step. Although he was the City Lord of a remote star, there was probably no one else in the entire Green Cloud County or even the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom who could ascend to his current status. Chapter 1908, Test. Chapter 1908, Test. Against the scrutinizing gaze of the person with the highest authority on the Dragon Abyss star, Su Zimo had a calm expression and merely cupped his fists. Thank you for saving me, City Lord. No matter if it was to intimidate Lu Tong or for any other reason, Su Shi had stepped in to help him avoid trouble. If not for Su Shi, he would have gone on a massacre in Dragon Abyss City. Even if he could escape from this place, there would be endless trouble in the future. Su Zimo? Su Shi nodded slowly. I've long heard about you. All these years, you've caused quite a stir on the Dragon Abyss star. Su Zimo did not understand what Su Shi meant and remained silent. Su Shi did not continue discussing this matter and suddenly changed the topic. I heard that you're extremely talented and have peerless combat strength. You can kill opponents above your level. Back then, you were only a grade 5 Black Immortal, but you could already kill grade 7 Black Immortals. I was just lucky, Su Zimo said. Su Shi glared at Su Zimo with a bright gaze and said coldly, in that case, now that you're a grade 7 Black Immortal, doesn't that mean that you have the combat strength to kill me? There was a hint of hostility in his words. It gave off the feeling that if Su Zimo replied wrongly, Su Shi would suddenly attack and kill Su Zimo as a threat in advance. Sensing that something was amiss with the atmosphere, Su Xiaotian could not help but say uneasily, Father, Brother Su saved my life. Why would he hurt you? Don't pull a long face. It's scary. City Lord, you must be joking. I wouldn't dare, Su Zimo said indifferently. Although he did not dare to, he did not say that he could not. Naturally, Su Shi could tell the slight difference. However, he was not enraged. Instead, he burst into laughter. Good. Su Zimo, you're indeed courageous. I like it. You saved Xiaotian and have such innate combat strength. Why don't you stay in Dragon Abyss City and help me? Don't worry, your status in Dragon Abyss City will be equivalent to the other commanders. I'll also provide you with a considerable number of essence condensation pills to cultivate. Su Xiaotian was delighted and said hurriedly, Brother Su, hurry and agree. You can stay and accompany me while we cultivate together. To be able to provide essence condensation pills at the same level as a commander was an extremely sincere invitation. However, if Su Zimo wanted to cultivate rapidly, he needed essence spirit stones. Essence condensation pills were not much of an attraction for him. Su Zimo was not interested in the position of a commander either. Now that Lu Tong was a grade 9 Black Immortal, there was a high chance that a fight for the position of City Lord would break out between him and Su Shi in the future. If he stayed to help Su Shi, he would definitely be embroiled in this battle. Su Zimo did not have the energy or mood to get involved in such a power struggle. Su Zimo pondered for a moment. Thank you for your high regard, City Lord. However, my mind is not here. I still want to leave the Dragon Abyss star as soon as possible. Are you really leaving? Su Shi frowned slightly. Yes. Su Zimo nodded. When Su Shi saw Su Zimo reject his invitation, he did not have any regrets. Instead, a look of relief flashed through his eyes, as though he was relieved of a burden. His invitation earlier on was merely a test. If Su Zimo were to stay, he would definitely keep an eye on Su Zimo and be on guard. Now that Su Zimo had made up his mind, he was relieved. On the other hand, Su Xiaotian looked reluctant. Su Zimo thought for a moment and asked, I heard that the teleportation formation in Dragon Abyss City can only teleport once a year. Is that true? Indeed. Su Shi was in a good mood and waved his hand. However, you're Xiaoyan's life-saving benefactor. It's nothing much for me to send an order to activate a teleportation formation for you individually. You don't have to pay for your 100 Essence Spirit Stones either. Thank you, City Lord. Su Zimo was secretly delighted and expressed his thanks. With that, not only could he leave the Dragon Abyss Star immediately, he could even save 100 Essence Spirit Stones. Essence Spirit Stones were way too important to him. Su Shi raised his hand and tossed a badge to Su Xiaotian. Take my badge and take Su Zimo over. We can activate the teleportation formation right away. With that said, Su Shi turned to leave. Brother Su, follow me. Su Xiaotian led Su Zimo towards the teleportation formation of the City Lord's residence. Along the way, he could not help but ask, Brother Su, are you really not going to stay? Although my father was rude to you earlier on, he's actually a very nice person. Su Zimo smiled and patted Su Xiaotian on the shoulder gently. Actually, your father's vigilance towards me is not without reason. Huh. Su Xiaotian was puzzled. Su Zimo explained, I did save you before, but how much do you know about me? How do you know that I'm not doing this to get close to your father or have other motives? Su Xiaotian hesitated for a long time before saying, I'm sure you won't, Brother Su. Although he said that, he did not have the confidence and felt guilty. He realized that he knew nothing about Su Zimo apart from the latter's name. Su Zimo smiled. The pugilistic world is treacherous. It's never wrong to be cautious. Yes. Su Xiaotian nodded vigorously. The two of them advanced through the winding stone paths of the garden. Before long, the path ahead opened up and a teleportation formation made of green stones appeared. Every single green stone was etched with mysterious and complicated formation patterns. The final teleportation formation was only formed after so many green stones were built together. There were 4 to 5 guards guarding the teleportation formation. Su Xiaotian walked forward and took out the City Lord badge. Guard Shui, this is my father's badge. He wants you to activate the teleportation formation and send someone away. Guard Shui blushed slightly and averted his gaze, saying embarrassedly, Young Master, I'm truly sorry. This teleportation formation is broken. What? Su Xiaotian frowned and hollered. Why did the teleportation formation suddenly break down? How did you guys guard it? Although he was not old, he had already begun to possess authority. Su Zimo walked forward and took a look around the teleportation formation. Before long, he discovered the problem and pointed to a long green stone. This green stone is shattered to such an extent. It can't be an accident. It's caused by external forces. In other words, someone did not want him to leave and destroyed the teleportation formation on purpose. Su Xiaotian straightened his face with a cold expression. Guard Shui, how dare you? It's not my fault. Guard Shui rubbed his hands and laughed dryly. It was fine previously and was only broken just now. I definitely didn't do it. Who was it then? Su Xiaotian asked. I have no idea as well. Guard Shui said with a fake smile. Although he was respectful on the surface, he did not take the young master before him to heart. Su Xiaotian clenched his fists and said coldly, It's your dereliction of duty to guard this place without knowing who destroyed the teleportation formation. I'll inform my father right now and punish you for your dereliction of duty. And no. The moment Guard Shui heard Su Xiaotian mention the City Lord, he panicked and stammered. Commander Lu just came and asked us to leave for a period of time before we left. We don't know what happened during that period of time either. Lu Tong. Su Xiaotian grit his teeth with an indignant expression. Chapter 1909. Scheming. Chapter 1909. Scheming. Su Xiaotian asked, How long will it take to repair this formation? Don't worry, young master. I'll definitely be able to repair the teleportation formation within half a year. Guard Shui swore. That long? Su Xiaotian frowned. He knew nothing about formations and could not help much. Su Zimo looked at the green stone for a while before turning around. He looked at guard Shui and said indifferently, 20 days is enough to repair this green stone. Actually, the number that Su Zimo mentioned was even a little conservative. He did not understand the formation patterns of teleportation formations. If he knew the formation patterns of the teleportation formation like the back of his hands, he would be able to repair the green stone in 10 days. Guard Shui blushed and straightened his neck, wanting to argue. However, he felt guilty when Su Zimo looked at him and said weakly, "Do you know about formations?" "A little." Su Zimo's gaze was burning as he said resolutely, "Give me 20 days and I can repair the formation patterns of this teleportation formation." Su Xiaotian glared at guard Shui angrily and shouted, "How dare you lie to me?" Guard Shui was sweating profusely with a flustered expression as he explained hurriedly, "Young master, please calm down. The half a year I mentioned was just in case. Under normal circumstances, it won't take half a year. Don't worry, young master. I'll definitely do my best to repair the teleportation formation within 20 days. Su Xiaotian said in a deep voice, "If the teleportation formation can't be activated after 20 days, you'll be guilty of dereliction of duty." "Why, yes." Guard Shui arched his body and nodded repeatedly. "Brother Su, let's go," Su Xiaotian called out. Su Zimo stood motionlessly in deep thought. Thinking that Su Zimo was a little disappointed, Su Xiaotian consoled him, "Brother Su, don't worry. I'll prepare a room for you, and you can settle down first. It'll only be 20 days and it'll be over in the blink of an eye." "There's no need." Suddenly, Su Zimo waved it off. "I'll guard here." Stunned for a moment, Su Xiaotian quickly understood and asked, "Brother Su, are you worried that Lu Tong will return and destroy the teleportation formation again?" Su Zimo shook his head and did not explain. What Su Xiaotian said was only one of the reasons. Su Zimo was thinking about something else. Lu Tong's method of destroying the teleportation formation was not brilliant. In fact, it could not even be considered as a scheme. At most, it would only delay him for 20 days. What was Lu Tong's intention? Was it just to vent his frustrations? Su Zimo was worried that something else might happen within the next 20 days. Of course, it would be best if there was nothing. If he stayed here, he could also make use of this opportunity to learn how to master the formation patterns of teleportation formations. From now on, even without help, he could activate the teleportation formations in the major cities himself. "Brother Su, I'll accompany you." Su Xiaotian patted his chest and declared loyally. At the side, guard Shui lamented internally. He did not dare to slack off under Su Xiaotian's watch and could only repair the teleportation formation with all his might. Su Zimo began to learn the formation patterns of the teleportation formation as well. Teleportation formations were relatively common in the upper world. Given his attainments in formations, it was not difficult for him to comprehend and master those formation patterns. Time passed bit by bit. For the next few days, the City Lord's residence and Dragon Abyss City were the same as usual. Lu Tong did not appear again. In the blink of an eye, 10 days had passed and the teleportation formation was about to be repaired. This day, the City Lord, Su Shi, appeared and called Su Zimo and Su Xiaotian over. "Lu Tong has sent an invitation. He's holding a banquet at his residence today to invite the commanders and us." "All right, I'll ask him why he destroyed the teleportation formation." Su Xiaotian was still indignant at the thought of that. "Xiaotian." Su Shi frowned slightly. "There's no need to mention this again." Su Xiaotian pouted and remained silent. Pondering for a moment, Su Zimo declined, "City Lord, I have some grudges with Lu Tong and I'm not familiar with the other commanders, so I won't be going." "That's precisely the reason why you should attend the banquet," Su Shi said. "Lu Tong has set up the banquet today with the intention of easing the tension. It's best if there's no feud between you and him." Su Zimo had a calm expression and thought nothing of it. Once the teleportation formation was repaired, he would leave the Dragon Abyss Star and roam freely. So what if he had a feud with Lu Tong? To be fair, Su Zimo truly did not take Lu Tong seriously. As though he could read Su Zimo's mind, Su Shi shook his head gently. One of Lu Tong's senior brothers is in Green Cloud County. I heard that he's an Earth Immortal expert. Su Zimo raised his brows slightly. Su Shi said, "That's all I can remind you?" Su Zimo gradually understood. Prior to this, Su Shi had always been tolerant towards Lu Tong. The one he was wary of should be Lu Tong's senior brother. Su Shi was also reminding Su Zimo out of goodwill that there was no need to offend an Earth Immortal expert because of Lu Tong. Su Zimo was silent for a moment. "City Lord, pardon me for being presumptuous. Lu Tong is already a Grade 9 Black Immortal. Aren't you worried that he will join forces with that Earth Immortal expert to replace you?" That statement was a little overboard. If Su Shi were to fall out with Su Zimo on the spot, it would not be impossible for him to accuse Su Zimo of sowing discord. However, in Su Zimo's opinion, the timing of Lu Tong's banquet today was a little coincidental. It was probably not with good intentions. Ha 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 ha. Su Shi reared his head in laughter. "You're thinking too much. I'm the city lord appointed by the county governor of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom's Green Cloud County. If Lu Tong dares to attack me along with outsiders, he'll be surrounded and killed by the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. Even heaven immortals, sects and factions must not go against the authority of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom, let alone Earth immortals." Su Xiaotian asked worriedly, "Will Lu Tong attack Brother Su at the banquet?" "Don't worry," Su Shi said. "With me around, Su Zimo will be safe." Su Zimo pondered for a moment and did not decline. The three of them left the city lord's residence and arrived at Lu Tong's residence before long. Su Shi was rather familiar with this commander's residence. He walked along the stone path and before long, he arrived before a grand hall. The hall was a little empty. There was only one person sitting in the middle, Lu Tong. Su Shi narrowed his eyes slightly. Something was amiss. The surroundings of the hall were way too quiet, and there were no servants or maidservants. Furthermore, under normal circumstances, all the commanders of Dragon Abyss City would be invited to this banquet. But now, there were only the three of them. Could Lu Tong truly be harboring evil intentions? Su Shi frowned. Ever since Lu Tong advanced to a Grade 9 Black Immortal, the relationship between the two of them had changed subtly. However, the two of them maintained their restraint and did not fall out. He was the city lord selected by the Green Cloud County governor. Under normal circumstances, Lu Tong could not replace him. Furthermore, he did not wish to get rid of Lu Tong either. There was no reason for him to offend the Earth Immortal expert backing Lu Tong because of that. Chapter 1910, Execution Guard. Chapter 1910, Execution Guard. Su Shi stood at the entrance of the hall and released his spirit consciousness to scan his surroundings a few times, but he did not discover anything unusual. Lu Tong was the only one in the hall. Su Shi calmed down and led the way into the hall. Su Zimo was also scanning his surroundings. Even with his spirit perception, he did not sense any danger. Where are the others? Su Shi looked at Lu Tong and asked straightforwardly. "Sit." Lu Tong did not get up and was still sitting in the middle. He pointed to the side and said with a fake smile. Under normal circumstances, even if the banquet was held in Lu Tong's residence, given their status, Su Shi should be the one sitting at the main seat. But now, not only did Lu Tong not stand up to give way, he even pointed to the guest seats at the side for Su Shi to take a seat. This had already broken the rules. "You!" Su Xiaotian was furious and could not hold it in any longer. Just as he was about to speak, Su Shi pushed him back. Su Shi had a calm expression and was not annoyed. He beckoned for Su Xiaotian and Su Zimo to sit down at the guest seats. "Speak. Why are you looking for me?" Su Shi went straight to the point. "All right, I won't beat around the bush either." Lu Tong smiled. "I called you guys here today for two reasons. First, to kill Su Zimo." At that point, Lu Tong paused for a moment and looked at the expressions of Su Shi and the other two. Su Shi and Su Zimo's expressions were unchanged. Su Xiaotian was the only one with a maddened glare. The smile in Lu Tong's eyes intensified as he continued, "Second, You've been the city lord for so long. It's time for you to give up your position. Susher chuckled and asked, To whom? You? Yes, of course. Lu Tong stood up and spread his arms proudly. On the Dragon Abyss Star, I'm the only one qualified to be the city lord in terms of background and combat strength. Susher, even if you cultivate to a grade 9 black immortal, you'll only be someone from the lower world. You'll never be able to get rid of your status as a lowlife. You're not qualified to challenge me. Susher stood up slowly as well, emitting an extremely sharp aura as he glared at Lu Tong with an unfriendly expression. Su Zimo watched coldly from the sidelines. Prior to this, Susher and Lu Tong had a tacit understanding and did not fall out. But now that Lu Tong invited Susher over and took the initiative to talk about this matter, he must have prepared something. Don't be nervous, Lu Tong said with a smile. Susher, I'm only giving you this chance because we've known each other for so many years. You have to consider it carefully. If you take the initiative to withdraw, you might be able to save your family's lives. If you persist in your obstinacy and refuse to abdicate, don't blame me for being merciless and killing you. Oh. Suddenly, Susher's aura rose as though he had broken through some shackles and surged to another level. He said slowly, Let's see how you're going to kill me. Earth Immortal. Furthermore, he was a grade 2 Earth Immortal. Su Zimo nodded to himself. It was no wonder why Susher was the city lord. He had hidden himself so well. Judging from Lu Tong and Su Xiaoyan's surprise, no one in Dragon Abyss City knew Susher's true cultivation. It was no wonder why Susher was fearless and dared to attend Lu Tong's banquet. However, what made Su Zimo uneasy was that apart from the initial surprise, there was no fear in Lu Tong's reaction. Lu Tong shook his head and looked at Susher with pity. This is the path you chose. Don't blame me. He retreated as he said that. Suddenly, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. As though he sensed something, he turned around and looked behind him. Unknowingly, someone had appeared at the entrance of the hall. Even with his spirit perception, he did not notice when that person appeared. It was a middle-aged man with a tall and straight figure. Standing at the entrance of the hall, he was like a door god and emitted an extremely terrifying aura that sealed all escape routes. Earth Immortal. The middle-aged man was also an Earth Immortal. Furthermore, the aura released by this person was clearly much stronger than Susher. Susher's attention was initially on Lu Tong. At that moment, he realized something and turned around. When he saw the middle-aged man, Susher's pupils constricted. He scanned with his spirit consciousness, and his expression changed as he exclaimed softly, Grade 7 Earth Immortal. Senior brother, thankfully, you're here. I'll leave Susher to you. Lu Tong said with a smile. Susher's expression was terrible. He knew that Lu Tong had a senior brother who was an Earth Immortal expert. However, he had not expected that the Earth Immortal expert's grade would be so high that it was at grade 7. Su Zimo had a grim expression as well. The power of a grade 7 Earth Immortal was far beyond what he could endure. And now, the two sacred beast souls on the walls of the bronze square tripod had already exhausted their powers and fell asleep. Among his methods, there were few that could threaten Earth Immortals, let alone grade 7 Earth Immortals. Susher calmed down rapidly and took out a jade badge from his storage bag with the words Dragon Abyss written on it. I have a Dragon Abyss badge personally issued by the Green Cloud County Governor, Susher said in a deep voice. As long as I crush the Dragon Abyss badge, I can spread the news of this place to the county governor. At that time, the two of you will be hunted down by the immortal soldiers of Green Cloud County, let alone become the city lord of Dragon Abyss City. These days, even the lowlifes are so arrogant. The middle-aged man had his hands behind his back and raised his head slightly with a haughty expression. Right from the beginning, he had not looked at Su Zimo and the other two directly. You can try crushing it. The middle-aged man had a mocking expression, as though he did not care. Susher gripped the Dragon Abyss badge tightly with a nervous expression. Although you're a grade 7 Earth Immortal, there's nowhere for you in the entire Great Gene Immortal Kingdom if you're hunted by the execution guards. Have you seen the execution guards? The middle-aged man asked with a fake smile. So what if I have? So what if I haven't? Su Shi was still in a standoff with the middle-aged man, and his tone was not weak. I'll let you die in peace today. The middle-aged man smiled faintly and slapped his storage bag, retrieving a pitch-black armor to wear. The armor looked extremely heavy, as though it was made from countless metal feathers. It was tight and detailed, filled with a malevolent aura and shone with a divine light. Su Shi's expression changed starkly, and his face turned pale from fright, as though he had lost his soul. Even when he sensed that the middle-aged man was a grade 7 Earth Immortal, Su Shi did not experience such a change. Su Zimo did not understand why Su Shi's fighting spirit dissipated at the sight of an armor as though he had seen a ghost. Black gold, feather armor, execution guard. Su Shi's lips trembled slightly as he said a few words. Clang! The middle-aged man withdrew the saber that was hanging on his waist, and a chilling aura spread out, causing the temperature in the hall to dip. Even Su Zimo could not help but shudder. The saber shone coldly with a sinister blood chi. On both sides of the saber were words respectively, punishment and death. Chapter 1911, Twilight Years. Chapter 1911, Twilight Years. Su Shi's face was ashen and his eyes dimmed. The aura he had against the middle-aged man earlier on was gone. The bold young man, Su Xiaotian, shuddered when he heard the words execution guard. He had a fearful expression and trembled slightly. Su Zimo realized that the execution guard might have an extremely high status in Green Cloud County, or rather, in the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. Even the city lord of Dragon Abyss City had to bow down. Su Shi was silent for a moment before taking a deep breath. I'm the city lord of Dragon Abyss City after all. Even if you're an execution guard, you can't cripple me and punish me as you please. Fu, the middle-aged man sneered. I don't care if I kill or cripple a lowlife like you. What reason do I need? If you really want a reason, it's because you shouldn't be the city lord. Even the status of the city lord of a remote star in the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom is not something a lowlife like you can taint. Thump. Su Shi knelt down in front of the middle-aged man with a despairing expression. Father, Su Xiaotian exclaimed. Kneel. Su Shi hollered and pushed down Su Xiaotian's shoulder, making him kneel. There's no use kneeling. The middle-aged man shook his head with an indifferent expression. You should have heard of the legend of the execution guard. When the execution saber is unsheathed, it must drink fresh blood and sever souls. Su Zimo stood still and watched coldly from the sidelines. No matter who the other party was, he would not wait to die. However, the combat strength of a grade 7 Earth Immortal was way too strong, and he did not have many chances to attack. Once he made a move, he had to ensure that he hit his target without any mistakes. Otherwise, he would definitely die. At that moment, Su Zimo merely remained silent and retracted his aura, waiting for an opportunity to strike so that the middle-aged man would not notice him. Ha 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 ha. Lu Tong smiled smugly and strode in front of Su Shi. Bending over slightly, he reached out and patted Su Shi on the face, mocking, City Lord, what are you doing? I can't bear this honor. Su Shi's face flushed red after being humiliated by Lu Tong, but he did not dare to resist. Brother Lu, I know that I'm going to die today. I just want to beg you to spare Xiaotian's life. Su Shi whispered. It's too late. Lu Tong pouted. Don't say that I'm heartless. I gave you a chance earlier on, but you didn't cherish it and even declared that you wanted to suppress me, Fu. Su Shi begged. All these years, Xiaotian has always called you Uncle Lu. Please don't implicate a child in our fight. Lu Tong glanced at Su Xiaotian at the side and clicked his tongue. Indeed, he's a child now. However, in another 10,000 years, he won't be a child anymore when he grows up. I don't want to leave any future troubles. Any issue should always be thoroughly uprooted. Lu Tong. Suddenly, a killing intent surged in Su Shi's eyes as he stood up from the ground and hollered, I'll fight you to the death. As though he was long prepared, Lu Tong retreated and laughed. Haha, I expected this. The middle-aged man strode forward and waved his arm gently. The execution saber in his hands released an extremely terrifying saber beam that slashed towards Su Shi. Although Su Shi was also an Earth Immortal, his strength was way too inferior against the envelopment of the execution saber. Su Shi and his son had despaired expressions. Right then, Su Zimo moved. He sat not far away the entire time without moving or saying anything. Almost no one paid attention to him or took him seriously. After entering the hall, the middle-aged man did not even look at Su Zimo directly. However, that person vanished from the spot in a flash. When he reappeared, he was already behind the middle-aged man. True Dragon 9 flashes. This move was extremely sudden. If it was Su Shi or Lu Tong, they would definitely not be able to react. However, as a Grade 7 Earth Immortal and an execution guard, the middle-aged man was extremely alert and sensed it the moment Su Zimo disappeared. A look of surprise flashed through his eyes before returning to normal. You don't know what's good for you. The middle-aged man's empty left hand that had yet to retract suddenly reversed and grabbed the green figure behind him. Berserk Heaven and Earth Essence Chi gathered in his palm, as though it wanted to destroy everything. When Su Zimo appeared, a pair of jade-white elephant tusks appeared behind him. They were extremely sharp, and his aura surged. Innate Divine Power, 6-tusked Divine Elephant. His body, bloodline, essence spirit, and various powers doubled. He was originally a Grade 7 Black Immortal. With the augmentation of the 6-tusked Divine Elephant, his strength rose and he was almost at the level of a Grade 8 Black Immortal. Oh! Sensing the change in Su Zimo behind him, the middle-aged man was slightly surprised and curious. Divine powers and secret skills that could increase one's strength were relatively rare. Although he was an execution guard, he did not know of such secret skills. However, the middle-aged man did not take it to heart. Even if the lowlife behind him released a divine power secret skill and was a Grade 8 Black Immortal, he would definitely not be able to defend against his palm. Su Zimo had a calm expression. He knew very well that almost all his trump cards were useless against a Grade 7 Earth Immortal. Be it Essence Spirit secret skills, visual techniques, sound domain secret skills, Dao Fire, or sword arts, none of them posed much of a threat to a Grade 7 Earth Immortal. The difference between their cultivation realms was way too great. The only method that could threaten a Grade 7 Earth Immortal was the greater divine power. Time is like a saber. His essence spirit was at the level 9 Black Essence realm to begin with. After releasing the 6-tusked Divine Elephant, his essence spirit had already broken through to the Earth Essence realm. Although he was only at level 1 Earth Essence realm, this meant that he could already release greater divine powers. Before leaving Snow Wind Ridge, he tried to release the 6-tusked Divine Elephant once. His essence spirit broke through to the Earth Essence realm, and he successfully released the human Dao Greater Divine Power, reverting Big Yellow into a human. Time is like a saber. Su Zimo pressed his hands against his chest and gray fog surged in his palms. Divine powers spread and a gray saber was rapidly formed. Su Zimo gripped the time saber and stabbed it towards the middle-aged man's palm. Suddenly, the middle-aged man felt his heart skip a beat and his scalp tingle. He realized that something was amiss and wanted to stop, but it was too late. Bang! His palm collided with the time saber. The time saber dissipated. Although the saber was neither tough nor sharp, it could sever one's lifespan. Time was like a saber and every single slash aged one. In the lower world, when divine powers weren't fused with heaven and earth essence chi, one would lose 30,000 years of lifespan if they were slashed by the time saber. In the upper world, heaven and earth essence chi was fused and the power of divine powers increased exponentially. With that slash, the middle-aged man's lifespan decreased by 60,000 years. Earth Immortals had a lifespan of 200,000 years. The middle-aged man was just 120,000 years old and was at the peak of his life as an Earth Immortal. However, his lifespan decreased after he was struck by the time saber, and he aged at a visible speed. Many white hairs appeared in his black hair. Some wrinkles appeared on his face as well. His entire body shrank and his essence, chi, and spirit deteriorated. The middle-aged man only had 20,000 years left to live. A single slash had put him into his twilight years. Chapter 1912, Dead. Chapter 1912, Dead. Although the entire process sounded slow, it happened in an instant. My lifespan? The middle-aged man was shocked. The sudden decrease of 60,000 years in his lifespan had a huge impact on his entire body. You've actually mastered the power of time. The middle-aged man reacted swiftly and retracted his saber with a furious expression. Abandoning Su Shi, he channeled his blood chi and slashed behind him. A look of pity flashed through Su Zimo's eyes. The reason why he waited for this opportunity was actually a gamble. He was betting on whether time is like a saber could exhaust the middle-aged man's lifespan. Unfortunately, he was still a little lacking. A single mistake in a fight of this level could result in eternal damnation. Not only did he fail to kill the middle-aged man with a single slash, the situation had reversed and Su Zimo was in immense danger instead. Even if the middle-aged man was in his later years, he still had a full 20,000 years to live. The power released by a Grade 7 Earth Immortal in his later years was still not something Su Zimo could take head-on. He knew very well that the middle-aged man would not be able to withstand another slash. However, the middle-aged man's reaction was too fast, and he did not give him a second chance to condense time is like a saber. The execution saber slashed down with a thunderous might, and its saber beam shone brightly. The saber chi was sharp and almost sealed all of Su Zimo's escape routes. The speed of that slash was so fast that it surpassed Su Zimo's reaction time. Without hesitation, his glabella shone and a bronze square tripod appeared in front of him. Clang! The execution saber struck the bronze square tripod heavily with an ear-piercing sound of metal clashing and sparks flew. The execution saber bounced slightly. As for the bronze square tripod, it flew backwards rapidly and smashed towards Su Zimo. Su Zimo raised his arms, wanting to defend against the bronze square tripod. However, although the terrifying power released by the middle-aged man's furious attack earlier on was mostly dissipated by the bronze square tripod, it still struck Su Zimo viciously. Su Zimo shuddered and felt a sharp pain in his arms. His bones felt like they were about to fall apart as he spat out a mouthful of blood. The middle-aged man was surprised that the execution saber could not shatter the battered bronze tripod. However, his surprise was drowned by endless rage before long. To his horror, he realized that even if he channeled his essence spirit, blood chi, and divine powers, he could not recover the 60,000 years of lifespan he had lost. In the upper world, there were also some divine powers and secret skills related to lifespan reduction. However, as long as those divine powers and secret skills were dispelled, one's lifespan would return. But now, it was as though his lifespan had been drained forever and was completely removed from his body. You deserve to die. The middle-aged man's eyes widened as he strode towards Su Zimo with a chilling, killing intent. It was as though he wanted to skin the latter alive. If he lost 60,000 years of his lifespan forever, it would be an irreparable injury for him. Even if he tore Su Zimo into pieces and skinned him alive, he would not be able to vent the anger in his heart. Enduring the pain in his body, Su Zimo seized the opportunity while he was distanced from the middle-aged man to channel his essence spirit once more, wanting to condense time is like a saber again. However, his essence spirit felt weak and his body swayed, almost fainting on the spot. Su Zimo made use of the six-tusked divine strength to raise his essence spirit to level 1 Earth essence realm. The toll on his essence spirit after releasing time is like a saber was already extremely terrifying. Releasing it a second time was already beyond what his essence spirit could withstand. Furthermore, this was after his essence spirit was fused with the Dragon Phoenix essence spirit. If it was just the Green Lotus essence spirit, his essence spirit might have collapsed because of what he did. Die. Right then, the middle-aged man's voice sounded. The execution saber descended once more. However, this time round, the saber beams released by the execution saber were dense like a ferocious beast and surrounded Suzimo with a torrential aura. Suzimo could not move at all. He wanted to open his eyes and see the trajectory of the saber beams. However, the intensity of the saber beams and sharpness of the blade caused tears to flow from Suzimo's eyes the moment he opened them. The dense saber beams severed his 5 senses completely. Suzimo had nowhere to run. He closed his eyes and curled his body, rolling into the bronze square tripod. Cling, clang. The moment he did that, a series of collisions sounded and countless saber beams struck the bronze square tripod. If he was half a step slower, he would have been sliced into pieces by the execution saber. Suzimo took a deep breath and channeled his essence spirit once more, condensing the greater divine power. Time is like a saber. A tearing pain came from his essence spirit. However, his gaze was resolute, and he had no intention of stopping. This was his only chance. He had no chance of winning against a grade 7 Earth Immortal head-on. Suzimo cried out in pain. In his consciousness, the Lotus Cave of the Creation Lotus platform spewed out rays of light continuously to replenish the power of his essence spirit. However, he could not condense a second-time saber. Suddenly, 2 different powers, one black and one white, surged into Suzimo's consciousness. Although they were completely different, they had a mysterious connection. That was the power of extreme yin and yang released by the Illumination Stone and Netherglow Stone. The 2 powers fused into Suzimo's essence spirit, causing its power to increase exponentially. A second-time saber was formed in his palm. On the battlefield, the middle-aged man had a cold expression. When he saw that the execution saber could not break through the bronze square tripod, he arrived above it in a flash. "Let's see how long you can hide for." The middle-aged man growled and gripped the execution saber with both hands. He descended from the skies and stabbed into the bronze square tripod. The middle-aged man's expression changed. Suzimo was not in the bronze square tripod. He had just witnessed Suzimo hide within, but now, the latter had vanished into thin air. Not good. Suddenly, the middle-aged man felt a chill run down his spine. A phantom-like figure appeared behind him. True Dragon 9 flashes. At level 2 of that movement technique, Suzimo could flash twice in a short period of time. Earlier on, he flashed once, and this was the second time. "I'll send you on your way." Suzimo's voice sounded sinisterly like a malevolent ghost. The middle-aged man sped forward with all his might, wanting to dodge and distance himself from Suzimo. With a cold expression, Suzimo waved his palm, and the gray saber in his hands transformed into a streak of light, disappearing into the middle-aged man's back. There were no wounds on the middle-aged man's body. However, his body withered at a visible speed. The middle-aged man's voice was filled with fear. He only had 20,000 years to live and could not withstand the second time as like a saber. The middle-aged man's glabella shone and his essence spirit escaped. The moment his essence spirit left his body had already withered completely. His blood chi was still and his hair was white, resembling a dried skeleton. The middle-aged man's essence spirit wanted to escape from the hall. However, before long, his essence spirit dimmed as well and dissipated into nothingness in the blink of an eye. The severed lifespan from time is like a saber was not only limited to the physical body, but also to the essence spirit. Chapter 1913, Silence. Chapter 1913, Silence. The essence spirit of the Grade 7 Earth Immortal Execution Guard dissipated and his body withered, dying on the spot. The entire process merely took a few breaths. Su Shi and Su Xiaotian were shocked and their eyes widened. Both of them were still kneeling on the ground with shocked expressions. They had not expected Suzimo to attack a Grade 7 Earth Immortal. More than that, they had not expected a Grade 7 Earth Immortal Execution Guard to be killed by a Grade 7 Black Immortal on the spot. At the side, Lu Tong could not react either. When Su Zimo attacked, Lu Tong sneered with a mocking expression. But soon, Lu Tong could no longer smile. The moment his senior brother died, Lu Tong's smile froze on his face. His eyes were filled with shock and disbelief, leaving only a single doubt in his mind. How was that possible? Under normal circumstances, it was indeed impossible. The reason why Su Zimo was able to kill the Grade 7 Earth Immortal with the help of the 2 time sabers and the true Dragon 9 flashes possessed an element of luck as well. Even if he had to do it again, he was not confident that he could kill this person. The reason why the execution guard died was because he did not take Su Zimo seriously and underestimated the latter first. Furthermore, he knew nothing about Su Zimo's trump cards and methods. After his lifespan was reduced by 60,000 years, and he was in his twilight years, his reaction was slower. That was the reason why he was killed by the second time is like a saber. After killing the execution guard, Su Zimo's essence spirit expended a lot of energy, and the divine power of the six-tusked divine elephant dissipated. The injuries in his fight were triggered once more after the intense fight, and he felt waves of pain. However, now was not the time to recuperate. Today's matter was not over yet. Su Zimo glared at Lu Tong, who was not far away, and stomped his feet, charging towards Lu Tong with the burst of his body. He had to kill Lu Tong. The power of Su Zimo's essence spirit was almost depleted, and he could no longer release any dermic arts or divine powers. He could only rely on his body and bloodline to engage in melee combat. Lu Tong jolted awake as well. He was scared out of his wits when he saw Su Zimo charging over with a murderous aura. He was a Grade 9 Black Immortal and was 2 cultivation realms above Su Zimo. As for Su Zimo, his essence spirit was weak and he was severely injured. As long as he attacked with his full strength, he might be able to defend against Su Zimo. However, at that moment, the only thing in Lu Tong's mind was the scene of Su Zimo killing a Grade 7 Earth Immortal with 2 slashes. He had already forgotten that Su Zimo was a Grade 7 Black Immortal and was severely injured. At that moment, he only wanted to escape from this place. Immobilize. Lu Tong channeled his essence spirit and released the body immobilization technique at the fastest speed towards Su Zimo. If Su Zimo was in his peak condition, the effect of the body immobilization technique on him would be almost negligible. However, at that moment, he was dragging his severely injured body and his essence spirit was dispirited. He was rooted on the spot by Lu Tong and could not move. Lu Tong was delighted when he saw that and turned to flee without hesitation. Splash! Without hesitation, Su Zimo channeled his blood chi and the color of a tsunami surged from his body. His green blood chi surged, and he broke free from the restraints of the body immobilization technique instantly. Where can you run to? Su Zimo hollered and chased out of the hall. If he was at his peak, he would be able to catch up in the blink of an eye as long as he released his golden rock wings. But now that Lu Tong was fleeing with all his might and Su Zimo was chasing with his physical strength, it was difficult to close the distance right away. If Lu Tong were to escape outside and the other guards saw it, this matter would not be hidden either. Bang! Right then, the power of divine powers spread and a gigantic mountain descended, almost suppressing Lu Tong. Lu Tong stopped in time, and the mountain blocked his path. Su Shi had chased out of the hall and attacked in time. He had calmed down rapidly from his shock earlier on. He quickly realized that this matter must not be spread. Although he was not the one who killed the execution guard in Dragon Abyss City, he would not be able to escape death as well. At that time, there was a high chance that his family clan would be implicated. He had to silence Lu Tong in order to hide this matter. Although Su Shi's attack did not injure Lu Tong, it blocked the latter's escape path. With that slight delay, Su Zimo had already caught up. Without a second word, he flipped his palm and suppressed Lu Tong. His palm was like a gigantic stone mill that released a crushing and distorted power. Great Chaos Essence Palm. When Lu Tong saw that there was nowhere to run, he could only grit his teeth and summon a saber from his storage bag, slashing towards Su Zimo's palm. Clang! Lu Tong's saber was a supreme black-rayed dermic treasure. However, there was no blood when it collided with Su Zimo's palm. Instead, there was a crisp sound as though it had struck metal. Not only that, Lu Tong felt an extremely ferocious power surge into his body through the saber. His body shuddered and his palm was torn with fresh blood. In melee combat, even Lu Tong could not defend against the burst of blood chi from the Green Lotus true body. Exerting strength in his fingers, Su Zimo gripped the saber tightly and snatched it over, throwing it in reverse. Lu Tong did not have time to react and could only leap up instinctively. Poof! The saber transformed into a cold beam of light and entered Lu Tong's chest instantly. That slash was initially aimed at Lu Tong's glabella. Lu Tong's leap managed to avoid fatal damage. His body was sent flying by the power contained in the saber and smashed heavily against the mountain peak behind him, his gaze dimming. His heart had already been pierced. Although his essence spirit was not dead, a black immortal's essence spirit could not live for long without a physical body. Right then, Su Shi descended and slapped Lu Tong on the head. Bang! Lu Tong's gaze froze and his essence spirit shattered, dying on the spot. Su Zimo panted slightly. Dragging his severely injured body and attacking consecutively, his injuries worsened once more. At that moment, there was a hint of blood in his breathing. However, he did not choose to recuperate. Instead, he was on guard and glared at City Lord Su Shi, who was not far away in silence. The execution guard and Lu Tong died one after another. Right now, Su Shi was a Grade 2 Earth Immortal and was already the strongest person in the courtyard in terms of cultivation and combat strength. There was a high chance that Su Shi could attack him and pin everything onto him. Su Shi was also looking at Su Zimo. Father! Right then, Su Xiaotian charged out as well. Su Shi's expression softened as he whispered, "Clean up this place first. Don't alarm anyone." Su Zimo nodded and heaved a sigh of relief. The three of them worked together to clean up the blood and traces of the battle. Su Shi handed the storage bags of the execution guard and Lu Tong to Su Zimo. Thereafter, under Su Shi's lead, the three of them left secretly and returned to the city lord's residence. "How do you intend to deal with it?" Su Zimo asked. The death of a commander was not a small matter. Furthermore, there was also the execution guard with an unknown background. Su Shi said in a deep voice, "Brother Su, rest and recuperate first. Leave this matter to me. As long as you and I don't say anything, no one will know the truth." Both their hands were stained with blood for this matter. No one would benefit from saying anything. Chapter 1914, 9 Firmament, Immortal Domain. Chapter 1914, 9 Firmament, Immortal Domain. After recuperating in the city lord's residence for 3 days, Su Zimo's injuries were mostly healed with the powerful regeneration capabilities of his Green Lotus true body. In the past 3 days, the teleportation formation had been repaired as well. Su Zimo did not leave immediately. Instead, he bid farewell to Su Shi and wanted to ask about something. Everyone from Snow Wind Ridge did not know much about Green Cloud County and the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. Although Su Shi was also someone who had ascended from the lower world, he definitely knew a lot about Green Cloud County since he could become the city lord of Dragon Abyss City with his own capabilities. If he could understand more about Green Cloud County, he could avoid some trouble in advance. Su Shi was surprised when he saw Su Zimo visit personally. In his opinion, it would take at least a year to recuperate after being severely injured by a Grade 7 Earth Immortal. To think that Su Zimo would recover after just 3 days. Su Shi's evaluation of Su Zimo increased once more. "Brother Su?" Su Shi welcomed Su Zimo and cupped his fists towards the latter without the slightest bit of arrogance as the city lord. Although Su Zimo's cultivation realm was lower than his, he knew that this seemingly frail scholar with refined features was definitely a ruthless character. "Brother Su, are you leaving?" Su Shi asked. Su Zimo nodded. "I'll make a move in 2 days when my injuries are healed. I'm here this time round to ask some questions." "Brother Su, Please speak, Susher said. Su Zimo pondered for a moment and asked, I heard that the upper world is a trichiliocosm. Which world does the dragon abyss star belong to? All in all, it belongs to the heavenly world. Susher replied, however, the heavenly world is way too huge and unimaginable. Even heaven immortals or perfected immortals won't be able to roam the entire heavenly world. Su Zimo had heard Dayu mention the heavenly world before. According to Dayu, more than half of the millions of humans in the lower worlds would ascend to the heavenly world, and the human emperor would belong to it as well. Dayu even said that his green lotus true body could also ascend to the heavenly world. Although Su Zimo experienced tribulations during his ascension, he still arrived in the heavenly world in the end. The heavenly world is divided into 3 major regions: the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain, the Pure Land of Bliss, and the Fiend Domain. Susher continued, it's said that between the 3 regions, there's a sacred tree with lush leaves that covers the skies. Its thick and powerful roots are connected to the territory of the 3 regions. The 3 regions are connected by a single tree? Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. How unimaginable was that? How powerful was this sacred tree? Susher said, of course, these are also legends I heard back in Green Cloud County. I can't be sure. Legend has it that this sacred tree is the foundation of the heavenly world. It is immortal and unshakable, gathering the heaven and earth essence chi of the upper world. A single tree that could become the foundation of an entire world. It was no wonder why it was called a sacred tree. Su Zimo said, in that case, the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom should be a faction of the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain. Yes and no. Susher smiled. The 9 Firmament Immortal Domain is just a general term. To be precise, there are as many as 9 immortal domains. That's why it's called the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain. The Great Gene Immortal Kingdom and the Dragon Abyss Star belong to the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain of the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain. Su Zimo opened his mouth slightly with a shocked expression. It was only at that moment that he realized that the entire heavenly world was much larger than he had imagined. The Dragon Abyss Star he was on was only a remote star in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. There were a total of 9 major domains like the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. The 9 domains form the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain. However, the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain was only a part of the heavenly world. When Susher saw Su Zimo's dumbfounded expression, he smiled as well. The 9 Firmament Immortal Domain is too far away from us. I don't even know what the other 8 immortal domains are called. I've fought in the upper world for tens of thousands of years. Up till this day, I've never left Green Cloud County, let alone the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom or the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. Su Zimo took a deep breath and composed himself. Green Cloud County was many times larger than Tianhuang Mainland. In the entire Great Gene Immortal Kingdom, Divine Firmament Immortal Domain, even 9 Firmament Immortal Domain and the heavenly world, countless paragons and monster incarnates would be born. However, the heavenly world was only one of the trichiliocosm. It was no wonder why the human emperor and Dayu said similar things. In the upper world, paragons rose and monster incarnates reigned. This was a battlefield that was much more terrifying and cruel than Tianhuang Mainland. How many factions like the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom are there in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain? Su Zimo asked. A total of 3. Susher said, the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom, the Yin-Yang Immortal Kingdom, and the Zixian Immortal Kingdom. Each of them is ruled by an immortal king, and their territories are divided from the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. Immortal King. Immortal kings were above perfected immortals. Under the jurisdiction of the 3 immortal kingdoms, no cultivator, sect, or faction can disobey the will of the immortal kingdoms. Susher said, in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain, the 3 immortal kingdoms have absolute dominance. Su Zimo frowned slightly and asked, even sects and factions can't go against the immortal kingdoms? No. Susher shook his head. In Divine Firmament Immortal Domain, sects are divided into 2 grades, Black Grade and Earth Grade. The sect masters of Earth-grade sects have to be perfected immortal experts. Even so, Black-grade and Earth-grade sects can't go against the immortal kingdoms. When an immortal king is enraged, millions of corpses and blood will flow. It's enough to flatten any sect or faction. At that point, Su Shi seemed to have thought of something and paused for a moment before saying, I heard that there are even heaven-grade sects above Earth-grade ones. Although they are also in the divine firmament immortal domain, they are not ruled by the three immortal kingdoms and operate independently. Su Shi lamented, these are all illusory legends. Even if there are truly heaven-grade sects, we won't be able to come into contact with them. Su Zimo remained silent. He had experienced the Battle of the Abyss personally. In that battle, disciples of heaven-grade sects appeared. Su Zimo asked again, let's talk about Green Cloud County and the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. Su Shi said, there are a total of 16 counties under the jurisdiction of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom, and each county has more than 100 cities. In each county, there are county governors who manage everything. Almost all of them are perfected immortal experts. Su Shi brought Su Zimo out of the hall and looked at the end of the starry skies. It was a gigantic shadow. Su Shi pointed to the shadow. The shadow we see is the divine firmament mainland. Around the divine firmament mainland, there are many stars like the dragon abyss star that form a sea of stars. Together, they form the divine firmament immortal domain. Su Shi continued, the city lords of the surrounding stars, such as the dragon abyss star, don't have high cultivation realms. Grade 9 black immortals are enough. However, you have to be careful when you're in the divine firmament mainland. Be it Green Cloud County or any other county, the city lords under their jurisdiction are at least grade 9 earth immortals. Some of the city lords of large cities are even grade 9 heaven immortals. At that point, Su Zimo's understanding of the divine firmament immortal domain was gradually formed. Chapter 1915, Glass City. Chapter 1915, Glass City. What's up with the execution guards? Su Zimo asked. A look of fear flashed through Su Shi's eyes once more when he heard the words execution guards. Su Shi took a deep breath of air. The execution guard is an extremely special type of cultivator in the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. Wearing the black gold feather armor while carrying the execution saber, they are in charge of punishment and killing. There are two types of execution guards, the heaven and earth guards. The conditions to become one are extremely stringent. Apart from absolute loyalty, one's cultivation realm must not be too low. Only grade 7, 8, and 9 earth immortals are qualified to be earth execution guards. Su Zimo nodded to himself. In that case, execution guards were composed of the strongest earth and heaven immortal experts. Su Shi continued, I heard that the heaven execution guards can only be mobilized by the royal family of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. As for the earth guards, only the county governors of the 16 counties are qualified to mobilize them. The execution guards have extremely high statuses and are in charge of punishment and killing in the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. Many a time, they can act first and report later. Even the city lords of the divine firmament mainland have to be polite to the execution guards, let alone me. Su Zimo was enlightened. It was no wonder why Su Shi was so wary of Lu Tong's senior brother. The power of an execution guard was way too great, and his combat strength was also outstanding among his peers. Who could defend and who would dare to resist? Su Zimo said deeply, the death of the execution guard is a huge matter. Someone will definitely come to investigate. What are your plans? Don't worry, Brother Su. Su Shi said, I'm prepared to throw Lu Tong and the execution guard's corpses into that abyss. Even if anyone finds them, they won't be able to guess it's me. Su Zimo nodded. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for Su Shi to kill a single execution guard. The difference between them was too great. However, things would make sense if the corpse of that execution guard was abandoned in the abyss. After all, many earth and heaven immortal experts were buried in that abyss, and it was only logical for an execution guard to die there. Brother Su, what are your plans for heading to Green Cloud County? Sushur asked. Suzimo shook his head. He did not have any specific goal, and his only thought was to collect as many essence spirit stones as possible and cultivate with all his might. On the Dragon Abyss star, heaven and earth essence chi was thin, and there was not even a single essence spirit mine formed. It was extremely difficult to obtain essence spirit stones. The only way to obtain more essence spirit stones was by heading to the divine firmament mainland. Suddenly, Suzimo asked, according to your understanding, where are the essence spirit mines in Green Cloud County? Essence spirit mines are usually occupied by sects and factions of various sizes. Sushur said, almost all the large-scale essence spirit mines are under the control of the Great Gene Immortal Kingdom. There are some essence spirit mines near every city. Brother Su, why are you asking this? Do you want to become a miner? Suzimo replied ambiguously. Although he trusted Sushur, there were some things that he could not say openly. Sushur said, if the miners collect enough essence spirit stones, they can indeed exchange for some essence condensation pills. However, I heard that the miners will encounter some danger. I don't know the exact details either. I've got a map of Green Cloud County here. Take it. Sushur had copied a map in advance, and he handed it to Suzimo. The map was made from beast hide and was not big. When it was unfolded, it was only 3 feet wide. However, the map was filled with stars, and the most striking portions were more than 100 cities. Releasing his spirit consciousness, Suzimo entered a city called Glass City slowly. His vision seemed to have entered the map, and his vision expanded continuously, causing the information he could see to become more detailed. Many information about the city flashed through his mind rapidly in an extremely mysterious manner. Retracting his spirit consciousness from Glass City, Suzimo continued searching outside the city and could see some unique emblems. Some of them were medicinal fields, some of them had sect emblems, and some of them were essence spirit mines. Thank you, City Lord. Suzimo nodded in thanks. This map was way too important to him. Sushur said, actually, if there's a chance, I suggest that you take part in some of the sect trials and try your best to join a sect. Given your combat strength, it shouldn't be difficult for you to join a Black Raid sect. Suzimo smiled and did not explain. If he wanted to join a sect, there was naturally no problem. However, even if he joined the sect, it would be difficult for him to obtain essence spirit stones given his cultivation realm. He had to find an essence spirit mine first before he could execute his plan. Sushur said, I should be leaving the Dragon Abyss Star in a few days to join a sect. He was long at the Earth Immortal realm. Staying as the City Lord of Dragon Abyss City no longer benefited his cultivation. The reason why he did not leave all these years was because he wanted to wait for Su Xiaoyan's cultivation to increase before heading to Divine Firmament mainland together. Now that an execution guard had died on the Dragon Abyss Star, he would not stay here for long. The two of them chatted until night fell before Suzimo stood up to bid farewell. Brother Su, are you leaving just like that? There was a hint of reluctance in Su Xiaoyan's eyes. Suzimo smiled and nodded. Sushur smiled as well. Xiaotian, work hard and cultivate. We'll head to Divine Firmament mainland in the future as well. Perhaps we might meet again on Divine Firmament mainland, Brother Su. Yes. Su Xiaotian nodded vigorously. The three of them headed to the teleportation formation of the City Lord's residence. A few days ago, Suzimo had already comprehended the formation patterns and activation techniques of such a teleportation formation. This time round, he activated the formation without the help of others. On the green stones of the teleportation formation, the formation patterns shone with a beautiful luster, forming a thick pillar of light. Many runes appeared on the barrier outside. Suzimo waved goodbye to Sushur and Su Xiaotian and entered the pillar of light. With a flash of light, Suzimo's figure gradually turned blurry on the teleportation formation. Suzimo felt a powerful suction force descend. Immediately after, his vision spun and the starry skies flashed. It was as though time and space were in chaos and he had lost his 5 senses. After a few breaths, Suzimo felt his body lighten and his feet landed on the ground. His vision recovered rapidly as well. Right now, he was already on another teleportation formation. From time to time, light would flash on the teleportation formation as other cultivators descended. It was unknown where they were teleported from, but there were many of them. The teleportation formation was located in a gigantic palace. Not far away, armored guards stood guard. Their bodies were as straight as spears, and they watched them with sharp gazes and cold expressions. Taking a deep breath of air, Su Zimo left the teleportation formation and walked out of the hall. His vision cleared up, and there was a commotion. There were many cultivators gathered everywhere. Auction houses, immortal medicine shops, restaurants. There was everything, and everywhere was bustling. There were all sorts of ancient structures scattered throughout the city. The long street was extremely wide and extended in all directions. People came and went. Some of the cultivators rode on swan and one that were as large as lions with smoke billowing through every breath. Some cultivators rode on auspicious clouds and advanced slowly in an ethereal manner. Some cultivators sat on green lawns and soared above the city. The surrounding city walls were extremely tall and towered into the clouds. The walls shone with a mysterious glow like mirrors. A massive city appeared before Su Zimo, Glass City, the city closest to the Dragon Abyss star. Chapter 1916, Minor. Chapter 1916, Minor. According to the map, even Earth Immortals could not travel through the air in Glass City. Only Heaven Immortals were qualified. On the Dragon Abyss City Star, there were no Earth Immortal experts, let alone Heaven Immortals. However, Heaven Immortal experts could be seen everywhere in Glass City. Any Black Immortal would feel insignificant in such a city. Some Black Immortals who were teleported over from somewhere left the hall and were stunned on the spot with shocked expressions when they saw that. When the guard guarding the entrance of the hall saw that, he smirked with a look of disdain. Among the many Black Immortals, Su Zimo was the calmest. Back in that abyss, even perfected Immortals descended, let alone Earth Immortals and Heaven Immortals. The scene before him was nothing much. Su Zimo did not stay in Glass City for too long. He took a quick spin before leaving the city and speeding towards a mountain range outside Glass City. Wanting Mountain. There was an endless mountain range outside of Glass City that surrounded the entire city like a natural barrier. There were many types of flora and fauna in the mountain range. Su Zimo was prepared to open up a cave abode on Wanting Mountain temporarily and cultivate in seclusion. He would refine and absorb the 300-odd essence spirit stones in his storage bag before making further plans. Before long, Su Zimo found a relatively secluded cave halfway up a mountain. He took action and expanded the cave abode slightly as his own. Thereafter, he set up many concealment methods at the entrance of the cave abode and drew out the formation on the turtle shell bit by bit before feeling relieved. More than half a year had passed by the time he was done. Arriving at his cave abode, Su Zimo assumed a lotus position and took out an essence spirit stone from his storage bag. He channeled the Prajna Nirvana Sutra and began cultivating. Indeed, Heaven and Earth essence chi was much richer in divine Firmament mainland. Su Zimo sensed it the moment he started cultivating. Under such circumstances, his cultivation speed would increase by another level. Time passed as the seasons came and went. In the blink of an eye, more than 100 years had passed since Su Zimo arrived in divine Firmament mainland. This day, he woke up from seclusion. After more than 100 years, the 300-odd essence spirit stones in his storage bag were completely absorbed and refined. However, his cultivation realm had yet to break through and was still at the level 7 black essence realm. Back then, Su Zimo only used less than 100 essence spirit stones to break through from the level 6 black essence realm to level 7. But now, he still could not break through after refining more than 300 essence spirit stones. As one's cultivation deepened, the number of essence spirit stones required for a breakthrough would increase as well. The demand of the Green Lotus True Body was even more terrifying. For the past 100 years, Zimo had barely shifted his position. At that moment, the essence spirit stones were depleted. He stood up slowly and dusted himself off before removing the immortal formation at the entrance of the cave and leaving. He had to think of a way to obtain a large number of essence spirit stones so that his cultivation could increase rapidly. Zimo left Wanting Mountain and traveled continuously. About half a day later, he returned to Glass City. He arrived at a wide long street in the city. Black Raid Sect, Heaven Hibernation Sect, is hiring some servants. Their cultivation realms have to be above level 7 Black Essence Realm, and the treatment will be generous. 10 Essence Spirit Stones for the trial content of the Black Raid Sect, Traceless Sect. I have the trial content of an Earthgrade Sect, Windfire Sect, 1,000 Essence Spirit Stones. On both sides of the long street, some cultivators shouted. If one could obtain the trial contents in advance and make preparations, that would indeed increase their chances of joining the sects significantly. The trial content of Windfire Sect? For real? Don't think about it. Even if we Black Immortals enter an Earthgrade Sect, we'll only be servants who do odd jobs. We won't have any status at all. Furthermore, Windfire Sect is one of the top 10 sects in Green Cloud County. Even if we know the contents of the trial, we won't be able to pass it. Many Black Immortals looked around hesitantly as well. Zimo did not stay in this area and continued forward. After walking for a while, the shouts of the sects gradually faded. On both sides of the long street ahead sat rows of cold immortal soldiers. Their gazes were sharp and they exuded an iron-blooded killing intent. That killing intent could only be tempered from battlefields. In front of the immortal soldiers, many Black Immortals with different cultivation realms lined up. They left some information and spirit consciousness imprints on a jade scroll before standing behind the immortal soldiers. The cultivators looked pale and uneasy, as though they were worried about something. This area was extremely quiet, and the atmosphere was tense. Many immortal soldiers remained silent. The Black Immortals and cultivators that arrived did not dare to say anything either. Before long, 1,000 people were recruited behind an immortal soldier. Follow me. The immortal soldier stood up and left with the 1,000 Black Immortals. Zimo had heard Suppression mention it before. There were 3 immortal kingdoms in Divine Firmament mainland. The methods of Earth Immortals and Heaven Immortals were way too powerful. There was a tacit understanding between the 3 immortal kingdoms, and it was an unwritten rule. If there was a conflict between the 3 immortal kingdoms, Black Immortals would fight with their lives for territory and resolve the conflict. Most of those Black Immortals were people who had ascended from the lower worlds. In the eyes of many exalted immortals, it was nothing much for those from the lower worlds to die. They were like a group of ants or cropped weeds that would not shake the foundation of the 3 immortal kingdoms even if they died. Actually, this was a game between the 3 immortal kingdoms. The outcome of the game was decided by sacrificing Black Immortals and those from the lower worlds. According to Suppression, although there were sufficient essence condensation pills to be gained from joining the border armies of the immortal kingdoms, the mortality rate was extremely high. Of the 1,000 people who left earlier on, it was already not bad if 100 of them returned alive. Nobody cared about their lives. The reason why Suppression was able to sit in the position of the City Lord of Dragon Abyss City as someone from the lower worlds was because he had fought his way through the border battlefield. He fought at the borders for tens of thousands of years and made countless contributions before finally receiving the reward from the Green Cloud County Governor. Even so, his status as the City Lord was worthless in the eyes of many exalted immortals. Zimo paused for a moment in the area and continued forward. Even if he joined the border armies, he would not be able to obtain Essence Spirit Stones. Before long, Zimo left the area. On both sides of the long street ahead, there were many figures gathered with some Black Immortal cultivators. At the edge of the area stood a gigantic badge with the word Minor. Zimo heaved out a sigh of relief. The reason why he came this time round was because he had set his sights on the Essence Spirit Mine outside Glass City. The best way to get close to the Essence Spirit Mine was to become a miner. Chapter 1917, Spirit Mind Blood Calamity. Chapter 1917, Spirit Mind Blood Calamity. Compared to the recruitment by the border Immortal soldiers previously, there were even more cultivators here. Suzimo stood outside the crowd and was in no hurry to advance. Sushur had once mentioned that there might be dangers in mining as well. However, he did not know the exact details. Fellow Taoist, please enlighten me. Suzimo smiled gently and stopped a Grade 6 Black Immortal who was about to advance. The Grade 6 Black Immortal frowned. However, when he swept his spirit consciousness and saw that Suzimo was at the Level 7 Black Essence realm, his expression turned serious as he lowered his head slightly. Exalted Immortal, please ask. I wonder if there's any danger in the mining process. Suzimo did not beat around the bush and went straight to the point. Exalted Immortal, don't worry. What danger can there be in mining? At the most, you'll just feel fatigue and spend your days underground without seeing the light of day. The person replied with a smile. Fufu, ignorant. Right then, a scoff sounded from the side. Suzimo glanced sideways and saw another Grade 7 Black Immortal standing not far away. His face was filled with rotten flesh, as though it was corroded by something, emitting a stench. His nose was gone and was extremely terrifying. There was no one around the noseless cultivator. All the cultivators kept their distance and were unwilling to approach. At that moment, the noseless cultivator looked at the crowd with a mocking expression and grinned. If we truly encounter danger, no one here will be able to escape. The initial Grade 6 Black Immortal looked at that person and was shocked. He did not dare to refute and replied obsequiously before leaving hurriedly. On the other hand, Suzimo's expression was calm as he came before the noseless cultivator and cupped his fists. Fellow Taoist, you're experienced and knowledgeable. Please enlighten me. What dangers can we encounter while mining? When the noseless cultivator saw that Suzimo did not disdain him and greeted him respectfully instead, his expression softened. The person said, if we're just mining ordinary ores, there won't naturally be any danger. However, if we're careless and dig up any flesh or bones, we'll just have to wait for death. What flesh and bones? Suzimo frowned and asked. The noseless cultivator said, there are only two ways to form an essence spirit mine. First, it can be formed by the constant infusion of essence chi over many years. The second is to bury the corpses of some powerful living beings underground. The flesh and bones of these living beings contain a large amount of heaven and earth essence chi. After they die, the essence chi is buried underground and can't be dispersed. As time passes, a mine will gradually form in the surroundings. Suzimo pondered for a moment and asked again, in that case, the formation of this mine will take at least hundreds of thousands of years. The corpses buried here should have rotted a long time ago, right? Hee, you're right. The noseless cultivator gave a strange laugh. Indeed, most of the corpses of living beings would have fused with the surrounding minerals without leaving any traces. However, the noseless cultivator changed the topic and his tone suddenly turned sinister with a menacing expression. The flesh and corpses of some experts might not rot for hundreds of thousands of years. You'll be unlucky if you manage to dig up those things. More than 1,000 years ago, a spirit mind blood calamity happened outside of Glass City. Someone dug up something and a drop of blood flowed out from the mine. In the end, only a few of the tens of thousands of cultivators in the mine survived, and the rest were buried underground. Pissed. A single drop of blood killed tens of thousands of people. On second thought, what sort of immortal power did the blood that had not dried up for hundreds of thousands of years contain? Just as he was secretly alarmed, he inadvertently glanced at the noseless cultivator from the corner of his eye. At that moment, the noseless cultivator had a strange expression, as though he was reminiscing. There was a hint of struggle and fear in his eyes as his body trembled slightly. Suzimo's heart skipped a beat as he suddenly thought of a possibility and hesitated. Suddenly, the noseless cultivator laughed in a deranged manner. You're right. I was one of the survivors of that calamity. My face was corroded by the mist released by that drop of blood. Even after more than 1,000 years, I still look like a ghoul. The noseless cultivator clenched his fists and grit his teeth. After a moment of silence, Suzimo asked again, if we use our spirit consciousness to check the situation and the mind before proceeding with caution, we should be able to avoid such things, right? What do you know? The noseless cultivator sneered. The surface of the stones in the mines would have naturally formed a unique stone skin. Even the spirit consciousness of heaven immortals and perfected immortals won't be able to penetrate it and see what's inside, let alone the spirit consciousness of black immortals. In that case, wouldn't mining be even more dangerous than fighting at the borders? Suzimo murmured softly, seemingly fearful. The noseless cultivator patted Suzimo on the shoulder. You don't have to worry either. It's rare to encounter such situations where bloodied artifacts are dug up. If you're lucky, you might not even come across one in 100,000 years. Suzimo observed from the side. The miners recruited were all black immortals. The reason for that might be because they were worried that the earth immortals would enter the mines and use essence spirit stones to cultivate. However, that was not the case for black immortals. Black immortals who could cultivate the taboo mystic classics were paragons and monster incarnates groomed by major families and sects. What cultivation resources did they not have? There was no way those paragons would lower their statuses and come over to mine. What are the rules for becoming a miner? Suzimo asked again. Everyone has to pay 5,000 essence spirit stones every year. If you can pay 5,000 essence spirit stones in advance, you can obtain the rewards of the essence condensation pills in advance and come out to rest. The noseless cultivator said, however, don't underestimate those 5,000 essence spirit stones. Most cultivators won't be able to complete it. Suzimo asked, are there people who enter the underground mines and hide the essence spirit stones they dug up in their storage bags? I advise you not to harbor such thoughts lest you get yourself killed. The noseless cultivator warned. Suzimo raised his brows slightly. Do people come to search the storage bags every year? He had many treasures in his storage bag. If that was the case, he would have to hide his storage bag in advance. Not really. Who would have the energy to search us year after year? The noseless cultivator said, before entering the mines, Earth Immortal experts will intervene and seal our consciousnesses and storage bags with their spirit consciousnesses. Once you enter the underground mines, you can't even take anything, let alone hide it in your storage bag. The essence spirit mines have been maintained for so many years. How can there be a loophole for you to exploit? Suzimo smiled without saying anything. He had not thought of hiding any essence spirit stones after entering the underground mines. He wanted to use essence spirit stones to cultivate directly. Chapter 1918. I'll set the rules. Chapter 1918. I'll set the rules. Suzimo followed an Earth Immortal to an essence spirit mine outside Glass City with the noseless cultivator. The essence spirit mine was located near a mountain peak in the Wunning Mountain Range and was the 7th essence spirit mine under the jurisdiction of Glass City. Typically, every essence spirit mine would have many mineral veins, and one could begin collecting essence spirit stones by mining along those veins. Of course, the number of essence spirit stones collected from each mineral vein varied. If one was lucky, they might be able to gather 10,000 essence spirit stones from a single mineral vein. If one was unlucky, they would only be able to gather dozens of essence spirit stones from a mineral vein. There were 1,000 Earth Immortal experts guarding the surroundings of the 7th essence spirit mine. Among them, there was even a Heaven Immortal expert guarding it. It was clear how much Glass City valued the essence spirit mine. Over the years, almost no one dared to harbor designs on the essence spirit mines. Suzimo and the noseless cultivator were assigned to a mine. Indeed, an Earth Immortal expert came before they entered the mine and sealed Suzimo and the noseless cultivator's storage bags and consciousnesses with a secret skill. Actually, given Suzimo's current cultivation, he was completely capable of breaking free from the spirit consciousness seal. However, that would alarm that person as well, and there was no need for that. Thereafter, the person tossed a storage bag and a jade spatula to Suzimo in the noseless cultivator. 5,000 essence spirit stones to be paid once a year, the person said before turning to leave. The noseless cultivator explained, the essence spirit stones that we collect will be stored in this storage bag. This type of jade spatula is the most useful for us to head down to mine. Suzimo and the noseless cultivator followed a rope and entered the mine slowly. As the two of them ventured deeper, their surroundings turned increasingly damp and dark. However, given their cultivation realms, they could still see their surroundings clearly despite the circumstances. A long time later, the two of them finally landed on the ground. Although it was called a mine, it was extremely spacious. There were many cultivators shuttling back and forth below, and some mine tunnels appeared in the surroundings. Within, cultivators were waving jade spatulas and shoveling the sand in the mine tunnels continuously to collect essence spirit stones. Hee. In the middle of the mine, a burly man sat there boldly. He had a fierce expression and an unshaved beard. He glared at Suzimo and the noseless cultivator who were descending and laughed strangely. Wow, another two newcomers. Suzimo noticed this person the moment he entered the mine. He was a grade 8 black immortal. Including the two of them, there should be around 100 people in the mine. Suddenly, the noseless cultivator sent a voice transmission. That person should be the leader of this mine. Typically, we have to pay him 50 essence spirit stones from the essence spirit stones we collect every year. That way, he can easily gather 5,000 essence spirit stones without doing anything. The mine guards above are not going to interfere? Suzimo frowned and asked. The noseless cultivator pouted. It's dark beneath the mine, and there's even a chance of encountering some random things. The guards above are all extremely smart. Who would be willing to come down? Even if those guards know, they'll just turn a blind eye. Suzimo pondered for a moment, and his eyes flickered in deep thought. The noseless cultivator warned, the mine leader is the strongest in combat beneath this mine and is the boss here. Do whatever he tells you to do. Let me advise you to behave yourself and not dream of challenging him. You two newcomers know the rules here, right? Right then, the burly man grinned and asked with a smile. We do. The noseless cultivator replied immediately. Suzimo looked at the burly man quietly without saying anything. The burly man smirked and pointed to dozens of mangled and rotting corpses in a corner not far away, saying coldly, all these years, there have always been people who refused to be disciplined and wanted to challenge the rules I set. This is their outcome. Exalted Immortal, don't worry. I understand. I understand. The noseless cultivator said hurriedly. Suzimo was still silent as he glared at the burly man, thinking about something else. Mining in this mine required 5,000 essence spirit stones per year. However, he had to use essence spirit stones to cultivate. There would definitely be a conflict between the two. He did not want to waste his time to collect essence spirit stones and hand them over to others. Suzimo was still thinking about how to deal with this matter when he realized that the solution was right before him. When the noseless cultivator saw that Suzimo was tactless, he left hurriedly and distanced himself from Suzimo, afraid that the burly man would misunderstand that they were together. Exalted Immortal, I don't know this person. The noseless cultivator even explained. The burly man waved it off and stood up slowly, smiling menacingly at Suzimo. Lad, are you prepared to die? You set the rules here? Suzimo smiled gently. His smile was a little strange, as though he had evil intentions. That's right. The burly man gripped his fists tightly with a ferocious gaze. His entire body was tense like a demon leopard that could lunge out at any moment. Whoever is strongest will be able to set the rules here. Suzimo asked again. That's right. Before the burly man finished his sentence, he attacked first and lunged towards Suzimo. Waving his hand, he punched out and released an extremely terrifying blood stench that was suffocating. Black immortals who entered the mine had their consciousnesses sealed, and could not use divine powers or dermic arts. What they competed in was their physique, blood chi, and melee combat strength. The burly man had tempered his body all year round and was terrifying in melee combat. He had dominated this mine for thousands of years, and no one was his match. Suzimo was like a frail scholar that he did not take seriously at all. Suzimo's expression was calm as he smiled gently and strode forward as well. Suddenly, he extended his fair palm and suppressed the burly man. The great chaos essence palm burst forth. Bang! The burly man's fist collided against Suzimo's palm. The burly man shuddered and felt an extremely terrifying power surge into his arms. His sleeves were torn and the muscles on his arms felt a ripping pain. Although the burly man was a grade 8 black immortal and specialized in body tempering, no matter how strong his body was, he could not defeat the Green Lotus True Body. Even without the use of blood chi, the Green Lotus True Body could suppress him. The burly man grunted and retreated hurriedly. Like a shadow, Suzimo closed in and continued suppressing the burly man with the great chaos essence palm. The burly man had no choice but to raise his arms to defend. Bang! The great chaos essence palm landed at the intersection of his arms. The burly man let out a tragic cry as his legs sank deeply into the mud beneath his feet, extending past his knees. There was no way he could defend against the immense pain in his arms. The great chaos essence palm tore through the burly man's arms and continued suppressing, slapping down on his head. "It's over. This is where I die," the burly man lamented internally. When the palm landed on his head, it suddenly retracted and hovered motionlessly. The burly man did not dare to act rashly either. He knew very well that as long as Suzimo exerted strength in his palm, his mind would be shattered and his essence spirit would be destroyed. The noseless cultivator and the surrounding miners were stunned on the spot with shocked expressions. The entire battle had just begun, and it was over before many people could react. Suzimo's voice sounded slowly. "From today onwards, I'll set the rules here." Chapter 1919, 1,000 years have passed. Chapter 1919, 1,000 years have passed. What do you want? The burly man panicked when he was suppressed by Suzimo. The mine was dark all year round and Earth Immortal experts outside would not come down here. Therefore, a community of its own was formed beneath the mine. If Suzimo were to kill him and replace him, no one would care about this matter. "If you behave yourself, I'll spare your life," Suzimo said coldly. "I don't have many requests. Help me settle the 5,000 essence spirit stones that I have to submit every year." Suzimo came to the mine to cultivate. If he killed this burly man, he would not have the energy to manage the 100-odd people in the mine below. Instead, it would cause trouble. The burly man heaved a sigh of relief and his expression softened. It was just an additional 5,000 essence spirit stones a year. It was extremely simple. There were more than 100 people in the mine. As long as he looted more ruthlessly, he could gather the 5,000 essence spirit stones. "Fellow Taoist, don't worry. Leave your 5,000 essence spirit stones a year to me," the burly man said firmly. Suzimo nodded. "One more thing. Watch over here and don't let anyone enter my mine tunnel." Beneath the mine, there were many mine tunnels in every direction. Some of the mine tunnels had 2 or 3 cultivators mining together while others had even more people. Suzimo was prepared to cultivate in this mine and naturally could not let others see him. "No problem," the burly man agreed readily. Those 2 requests were nothing to him. Surveying his surroundings, Suzimo's gaze was sharp and none of the cultivators beneath the mine dared to meet his gaze. The noseless cultivator felt a sense of regret. If he had known that this seemingly frail scholar had such methods, he would not have rushed to sever ties with this person. The Green Lotus True Body was the most sensitive towards heaven and earth essence chi. Closing his eyes for a moment, Suzimo walked towards one of the mine tunnels that was still shallow. There was once a cultivator who dug more than 100 feet into this mine tunnel and retreated after obtaining nothing. However, Su Zimo sensed an extremely rich heaven and earth essence chi in this mine tunnel. With the jade spatula in his hands, he dug continuously in the mine tunnel. Indeed, a mere 30 feet later, he unearthed a large essence spirit stone. That essence spirit stone weighed 5 kilograms. A single essence spirit stone was 500 grams. However, this essence spirit stone could be cut into 10 normal-sized essence spirit stones. Su Zimo was delighted. Even the many Earth Immortal experts guarding outside would not be able to obtain essence spirit stones so easily, let alone on the Dragon Abyss star. Without hesitation, Su Zimo assumed a lotus position and pinched an essence spirit stone each with both hands. Circulating the Prajna Nirvana Sutra, he began to refine and cultivate. Just like that, Su Zimo gathered essence spirit stones and cultivated at the same time. His essence spirit stones were never depleted, and he cultivated daily. Time flew by year after year. All these years, Su Zimo had almost never left this mine tunnel. Every year, the burly grade 8 black immortal outside would help him pay the 5,000 essence spirit stones. His entire focus was on cultivation. With the help of the Green Lotus True Body and the Prajna Nirvana Sutra, as well as the endless accumulation of cultivation resources, his cultivation advanced by leaps and bounds. After entering the mine for 189 years, Su Zimo broke through and entered the level 8 Black Essence realm. That cultivation speed was terrifying. Even paragons and monster incarnates groomed by aristocratic families and sects would have difficulty reaching that level. Su Zimo did not leave after becoming a grade 8 Black Immortal and continued cultivating beneath the mine. He was prepared to cultivate to become a grade 9 Black Immortal before making further plans. If possible, he was even prepared to break through from the Black Essence realm and become an Earth Immortal. 771 years after he entered the mine, Su Zimo entered the level 9 Black Essence realm. Over the years, the cultivators in this mine had changed batch after batch. Many of them could not hold on. However, be it the initial or later cultivators, they knew one thing. There was a mine tunnel in the mine that was forbidden, and no one was allowed to enter. After becoming a grade 9 Black Immortal, Su Zimo rested for a few days and did not leave this place. Instead, he continued cultivating and advanced towards the Earth Essence realm. This day, Su Zimo was circulating his mental cultivation technique while refining essence spirit stones. As he cultivated, he suddenly felt a familiar call in the depths of his heart. His eyes burst wide open. The Martial Dao Prime Body. Earlier on, he received a connection from the Martial Dao Prime Body and jolted awake. At that moment, he established a new connection with the Martial Dao Prime Body. The Green Lotus True Body had once floated in the black hole for a period of time. He could not sense the passage of time and did not know how long he had wandered inside. It was only after he established a connection with the Martial Dao Prime Body that he obtained an accurate time. It had been 1,000 years since the Green Lotus True Body left Tianhuang mainland and arrived in the upper world. Over the years, after the Martial Dao Prime Body refined the Dragon Phoenix True Body and fused it into his flesh, he cultivated continuously. Back when many immortals descended, they left many essence condensation pills and essence spirit stones for the Martial Dao Prime Body. The Martial Dao Prime Body had already cultivated to level 5 of the Fate Ring Secret Ground. The Martial Dao Prime Body had created an unprecedented cultivation path. Although the upper and lower worlds were separated, and it was difficult for the Green Lotus True Body and the Martial Dao Prime Body to meet, Su Zimo could vaguely sense that the level 5 Fate Ring Martial Dao Prime Body was definitely not weaker than a grade 9 Black Immortal in terms of strength. In fact, it might even surpass the Green Lotus True Body. The Martial Dao Prime Body and Green Lotus True Body were one to begin with and came from the same origin. In the blink of an eye, many things were understood. Hell Suppression Tripod? Su Zimo murmured softly. This was a key piece of information he had obtained from the Martial Dao Prime Body regarding the bronze square tripod. 1,000 years had passed. Monkey, the spirit tiger, Ching Ching, Night Spirit, Little Fox, and the Golden Lion chose to ascend together and leave Tianhuang mainland 300 years ago. Old friends of the past such as Ming Jian, Lin Xuanji, Demonist Ji, Yin Beichen, and the others had already ascended one after another. Of course, for the past 1,000 years, among the experts who chose to ascend, some of them died under the heavenly tribulation and their souls were dispersed. One of the things that shocked Tianhuang mainland was the failure of the Mystic Emperor's tribulation transcendence back then. After the Mystic Emperor chose a new palace guardian for the human emperor's palace, he abandoned everything and began to undergo tribulation transcendence without any attachments. Unexpectedly, he welcomed the 3 of 9 heavenly tribulation and died in the end. 100 years ago, Baiming Xue's tribulation transcendence attracted everyone's attention as well. It was not only because Baiming Xue was the eldest disciple of the eternal martial emperor. More than that, it was because ever since the eternal martial emperor ascended, Baiming Xue was the second person in 1,000 years to attract the 4 of 9 heavenly tribulation and ascend successfully. The martial Dao flourished in Tianhuang mainland. After the 4 of 9 heavenly tribulation, the martial Dao was pushed to its limits and was comparable to the Immortal, Buddhist, and Fiend Daos. In fact, there were many cultivators with heaven spirit roots who abandoned the talent brought about by their spirit roots and chose to cultivate the martial Dao. The legend of the martial emperor establishing his Dao was recorded by the storyteller and spread through the mortal and cultivation world, passed down by everyone. Every year, countless cultivators would head to a small town in the north region to reminisce about the past and catch a glimpse of the strange scenery of peach blossom trees and mountains blossoming. However, no one knew that there was a truly terrifying existence hidden in the depths of the peach blossom forest. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.